from time to time whenever the producer thinks I may have crossed a line. Luthien, who's a wonderful person and I adore, and is a great producer as well, will then put forward a poll, and you guys will be able to vote on whether or not I lost it. Did Matt crash out? Did he lose it? And, if you guys find me guilty, I will make a donation to some charity. Last week it was Black Nonbelievers. This week it might be. I guess how much I donate will be based on how irritated you guys think I am. Um, but here in the United States, the U.S. Supreme Court proved again that they don't like trans people. They're not very fond of the Constitution. And they're just looking for a reason to stop supporting immigrants and visitors, documented or not, and that all of our freedoms are on borrowed time. In the birthright citizenship thing, I'm told, I haven't read through it all. I've been busy with other work. By the way, Arden's doing great. Um, I've been told that Justice Kavanaugh actually didn't support the Constitution, but um, went with the people supporting the Constitution because Congress passed a law. I love it when the Supreme Court justices are like, I'd really like to screw everybody over the way you want me to, but I found this little problematic law, and if you just change that, I'll ignore the Constitution. And that's basically what Justice Kavanaugh did. The United States experiment did not make it 250 years. This July 4th would be our 250th Independence Day. We're not what we were. We're not the land of the free, the home of the brave. We are not the constitutional republic with free and fair elections and with the sort of liberty that we like to pretend that we have. We are not the world leader in any number of things, except perhaps in unforced errors and uh, eager stupidity. And so that's my opinion. And I've invited someone in to teach us how to speak the language properly. In case we have to return to our former roots, please join me in welcoming John Cohen. How are you?
I'm excellent, Matt. Thanks for having me on. So, hi everyone. I'm John. As you may be able to tell, I'm in the United Kingdom. We'd be very happy to welcome you back to these shores if things get too crazy over there. But I'm very happy to be joining you. I've been in the debate space for a little while now, not a huge amount of time actually, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying engaging with people and asking them the same things that you always have, Matt. Like, how do you justify these crazy beliefs that you have? I'm continually astounded by people's failure to provide any reasons at all. You'd think I'd get used to it by now, but it continues to astound me. So maybe we get some. Maybe tonight is the night that we finally hear a good reason.
Well, like I said, I'm on my year of Zen, and and somebody's out there's like, he's not going to make it 2 weeks, let alone an entire year. That's fine. Um, the effort's worth it. Well, I'm not going to be yelling. I will, in fact, almost certainly use profanity, just because I enjoy it, not because I've been frustrated into it necessarily. But and I may on occasion be harsh, but not in the Matt lost it or crashed out thing. And if you think I have, well, you can vote that way, and we'll do a donation. I'm thinking Trevor Project or something similar because of the transports ruling, but I'm not haven't decided which one. Um, I'm going to try to prove a point over the next year, and I'll tell you what it was next June. But right now, I'm still in the same as always. I just want to have better conversations. And what we're seeing, and I'm going to ask John his thoughts on this and how he deals with this as well. The online debate space is not what it used to be.
Mm.
Once upon a time, it was trivial to get serious people who were, some of them were very confused, and some of them were not knowledgeable at all, and some of them had good knowledge, but it was frequent that we would get just genuine people. Hey, here's what I believe and why. I mean, I've done this for 22 years, and it's only in the past maybe 4 or 5 years that it started to ramp up, and it's partially because of things like the Jubilee format and others where I'm guilty of this. I'm part of the problem. I worked with organizations like Modern Day Debates that would scrape the bottom of the barrel and do turn debates into some sort of I don't know, WWE style event. It's like, ah ha ha. And, nowadays it's like, oh, we're going to get a whole bunch of Phil bros, not philosophers. I got no problem with philosophers, but Phil bros. Oh, let me drop a whole bunch of jargon. Or what was it Justin said? Was it jargon? I don't remember. Anyway, let me drop a bunch of stuff and see if I can maybe look like I'm smarter than you, as if that would tell us who was right in the first place. Trust me, there are people who are I'm smarter than people who are more correct on a number of subjects than I will ever be. All of us can make mistakes. And so right now, I guess the point I'm proving right now for this week is to all those people who think that I somehow can't control my anger. I can. I just choose not to. I enjoy some of it. But it's actually a lot easier than you think. I'll still get frustrated. I'll still hang up. It's the name of the show. But I'm doing everything in my power to see if a change can do this process any good. And I've noticed, John, I was watching you the other day frequently, and shout out to Sean, who's amazing when he's co-hosting with you, and I'd love to get him on here as well.
Yeah, but he's awesome.
What's your process if you've asked someone a question, they refuse to answer it, or they went a different direction, and then you point out they didn't answer it? How many times are you going to go in that loop before you decide? And it's not like a set answer. I'm just looking for your thoughts. But how many times do you go in that loop before you decide to move on? And what makes the distinction between moving on with that caller to a different subject or wherever they're going versus we're going to move on with somebody else?
Yeah.
Is it just a gut feel, or have you got like a 3-strike rule?
It's not a rule. It is a kind of instinct. You get a sense of the direction that the conversation's going in, and you know when you're flogging a dead horse. You know when you reach the point where, for me, I reach a point where I know there's not going to be any productive value in the conversation, and then I ask myself the question: is it going to be entertaining? Because some of these crash outs and some of these exchanges are actually just quite entertaining, even after the point that you realize they're not going to actually be productive. And then you also reach a point where it's going to be neither productive nor entertaining. And you realize that you're not dealing with an interlocutor who is actually interested or capable of having a productive conversation. At that point, you move on, and yeah, you don't waste any more time then. But I'm quite patient. I'm allowed, I will give someone a few opportunities. And I'll say, I'll ask you a straightforward question, and they won't answer it, and I'll stop them and say, I did ask you a straightforward question. Are you going to answer it? And I'll give them a couple of goes around that. And then if they're really determined not to, then there's no point wasting any more time.
Well, I tell you what, let's not waste any time. We got kind of a late start. We did a quick hello. At some point, when there's a gap, we'll go through and John can dig in and talk about his past, his history with religion, religious debates, and everything else. But as always, what we're trying to do is get theists to call in and tell us, what do they believe? Why do they think we should also believe it? I'm interested in why they believe, even if they don't think we should share it. But I'm more interested in the ones that think we should share those beliefs as well, and especially people who think that they have evidence-based arguments. And so theists are always going to get priority, and we already have our first, we have our first theist, except that I'm about 90% sure that this is the same theist that I banned last Wednesday, and then they called back, and I asked them if I banned them, and they said yes. And we hung up on them. But you know what? It's a new day. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life for me. Everybody, let's welcome Adam from Croatia. Adam's the theist who says he has evidence for God and speak about the great warning. Adam, I'm pretty sure you don't have to answer. I'm pretty sure I've already banned you. I'm pretty sure we've never had a conversation that went particularly well. And despite all of that, I'm going to welcome you back to the show and see if perhaps John is able to steer this conversation better than I could hope for. Adam, what's going on?
If my ban is expired, I will speak.
Your ban has been lifted, Adam. That's what was just said. So please do.
Yes. So the great warning will be sent by God, and it will produce like a mini judgment. You will see where you stand in matters of heaven, hell, purgatory, and all that. It will happen after the communism returns, and that will happen after the Russia suddenly attacks a great part of the world. Those are
Right.
some
And
of
you,
the informations.
that's delightful, Adam. And you know this how exactly?
Because this is the information that is circulating in all apparitions of the Virgin Mary, especially in Garabandal in Spain. And it is so dangerous and detailed information that even the believers are afraid to speak about it. That's why you don't know about it, and you don't hear about it anywhere. But
Tragically, Adam,
it's there.
I left my tinfoil hat. I left it at home today, so I may not be able to come with you on the entirety of this journey. But is this a claim that you're making with a straight face?
Yes.
Right. And is this something that you expect people to take seriously? That apparitions are opining on geopolitics and what's going to happen after that?
Yes.
Is this in your view how God operates, by issuing declarations about communism and world politics and warnings?
I don't know how God operates. We can see that he operates also like this.
If you don't know how God operates, I mean, what you've said is that a great warning will be sent by God and it will produce many judgments. How can you make a prediction that a warning will be sent by God if you don't know how God operates?
No, I don't see a point in that question. It's
The
like
point in that
kind of you
question
are
is that
throwing.
it renders an apparent contradiction in you simultaneously claiming something that would require certain knowledge while also stating that you don't have that knowledge.
The knowledge is exactly what I said. The
Okay.
knowledge is
Right.
that there will be a return of communism.
Can
Communism will
you,
return, and you will have a great war with Russia.
okay,
That is the knowledge.
let's assume for a second, sorry, let's assume for a second that communism does return and we have a great war with Russia. What would make me believe that this thing happening is actually a message from a God?
Because it will. It was said that. Well, first of all, it will create inside your soul this feeling of knowing how you stand before God, and that is the biggest spiritual proof. That is something where it is between you and God, and
Well,
that's
would
why
you
it's called
agree?
warning.
Like right now, I don't even think that I have a soul, but let's assume that after communism returns and Russia attacks, there will be a stirring in my soul such that I will be aware that I have a soul and I will know how I stand before God. Wouldn't that be the time to believe it and not now?
We should believe now.
Why would I believe before I have the information?
I don't know. That is the best answer. I don't know because I don't know you as a person.
Well, I
I
think
can't.
that's a great making claims and the truth is that you don't know about those claims. Well, here, what can you name a message that has clearly come from, I don't know who this Virgin Mary is? Um, who is she?
Mother of Jesus.
Who's Jesus?
Son of God.
Okay. I'm not aware of a God or God with a son, but so Jesus is the Son of God and Jesus has a mother named Mary. How can she be a mother if she was a virgin? That seems unusual.
Uh, I called to discuss the evidence of God. I'm not prepared for anything else. At
But
the
you haven't
moment.
provided any, Adam, you haven't provided any evidence of God. You've just told us a lovely story about how God may choose to interact with us after a war that you're predicting, or that magical virgins somewhere are predicting. That's not evidence of God. That's just a bedtime story. Do you have some actual evidence of any gods?
I didn't provide the evidence of God, but I did
Yeah, we've noticed
warn
that.
you on the I did warn you of the evidence that is coming very soon. That is the point.
Okay. The thing is, how would you feel if somebody said, there's evidence coming, but I don't have it now? Would you believe what they were saying?
Depends on the person and the situation.
Well, what if it was
Do
you
you
and this
believe me?
situation?
Yes, that's right.
What if it was me and I was telling you that I had evidence coming in the future? Would you believe me?
Uh, if you were saying that you were a Christian, I think that I would believe you. I think if
So
that's what
you
you're
think
asking.
Christians, you find Christians believable, and when they say so, that they'll eventually have some evidence, but you don't find
No,
atheists
no, no,
believable.
no, 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 no. I said
I'm sorry.
you. If you were saying that you have the evidence, you only. I think that I would believe you.
But you said you'd believe me if I was a Christian, which makes it sound like that whether or not I'm a Christian is the criteria that you're using to determine if you believe me.
That's right. If you were a Christian, but again, it's you.
So yeah, okay. So if another Christian told you that they had evidence coming in the future, you wouldn't believe them?
Depends on the person. I can't say the
Why?
same answer
So
for
I'm
everybody.
wondering, Adam. Yeah, I'm wondering, Adam, why does it depend on the person? Because I'm old. I've met a lot of people, and I've everyone I've ever met has been capable of telling the truth and telling a lie. Everyone I've ever met has been capable of being correct and being wrong. So, what criteria should we use to determine who we're going to listen to?
That's a great question because it is
I'm aware.
exactly how God. It is exactly how God operates. God
It's
chooses
exactly how God
certain
operates. What do you
people.
mean? I thought you said you didn't know how
Yes.
God operates, and now you're telling me you
No,
know
no,
how
no.
God operates?
Okay, I know a little bit. So
Well, why didn't you?
God
Why is it
chooses.
before, Adam? Why is it before you pretended to know? I'm sorry, I don't mean pretend as in like lying, but you made a statement that required that you knew how God operated. And when we asked you about it, you said you don't know how God operates. And now, when I'm trying to ask, I'm trying to find out what criteria you use to determine whether or not you're going to believe somebody. Now, all of a sudden, you know a little bit about how God operates. How do you know the little bit that you know about how God operates?
Because you inspired me to understand that I do know a little bit with your question.
I inspired
I
you.
thought I don't know. Yes, with a question.
Okay. So, but that doesn't tell me how you know. Like are you suggesting that I taught you a little bit about how God works?
No, but in the sequence of time and in the sequence of this moment, You
Yes,
inspired
post
me
hoc ergo
to
propter
think
hoc. I'm
that I do
aware
understand this little
that
bit.
one thing came after the other and isn't necessarily because of it. So I'm wondering why you're crediting me with teaching you a little bit about how God works.
So anyway, God chooses a
Yeah,
person
anyway.
and you believe him or not. And that is the biggest evidence. The person is the evidence.
Who's the person that I believe or not?
The person, because the person is profound. You just know it's the same thing like you choose your friends. You think about someone that he's an idiot or that he's a good guy. And the same works for people who talk about God. Do you think that all the Christians on this world are idiots?
I wonder, Adam, what do you think would happen if I put it up for a poll to the audience watching the show? How many people believed you and how many people thought that you were, let's say, charitably irrational and untrustworthy?
Put the poll. And I think that
Okay.
majority will vote
I'll put the
for
poll.
me.
I'll put the poll up. So, Luthien, I guess we're going to need a poll for the audience at Adam's request for people to vote on whether they believe him or whether they find him irrational and untrustworthy. We'll do that poll. John, do you have questions for Adam now that he knows a little bit more about how God works?
I do, yeah. Adam, congratulations on your day of education. That's fantastic. I'm delighted for you. So why is it that you believe these stories about the Virgin Mary predicting the return of communism and a war and then God's warning? What is it about that that's made you believe that it's true?
Because I have investigated it a lot. And when I get to see these people, who they are, I believe in my heart that they are telling the truth. For example, in Garabandal, you should investigate the person of Conchita Gonzalez. She is the most famous seer in that particular place. And when I see her, I just believe her in my heart.
You believed her in your heart. And what's your criteria for deciding whether you believe the stories that people tell you? Because the world is full of people telling us stories. So if I want to know whether to believe the stories that someone's telling me, how should I determine whether someone's telling me a reliable story or not?
There is no criteria. The same way there is no criteria for falling in love with a person. You don't fall in love with a person based on criteria.
Well, you kind of do. You kind of do if they're attractive to you and if they fulfill the sort of qualities that you look for in a partner. But it sounds like you're just being led by your emotions then and not really thinking about this very critically. Would that be right, Adam?
Well, it's not just emotions. You have. It's very hard for me to believe that the children from Garabandal that they are lying, because you have them being recorded when they are when the Virgin Mary appears to them. It was recorded on the pictures and videos, and they were even caught on a video in an ecstatic running down the hill. That was but this hill was like it wasn't how do you say it in English? I don't know to say that. When the hill is very almost
you saw some children. You saw some children running down a hill. I can see why that would be very persuasive about a ghost predicting geopolitical events in the world. I can completely draw the line there. I get exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Hey, Adam.
Yes.
Adam, are you there?
Yes.
We've got this poll up right now, and it's still early. I mean, there's like, I don't know, like less than 200 people have voted out of the, I don't know, 700 plus that are watching currently. And it's like 98% think that you're irrational. would you be okay with me putting you back in the queue, allowing the poll to marinate, get a few more people, and you can think some more about how John and I can have good reason to believe you while we talk to some other caller for a while. Would that be okay?
Fine.
Cool. I put Adam back in the queue. We'll get back to Adam. I don't want to be rude to the other callers who might have a little bit more to go on.
Yeah.
So, as a reminder, we'll be reading all the super chats. Sorry, over $5 at the end of the show. That's a little while from now. I mean, we just got started. It's only 6:30. We got a couple hours at least to go. But if you're out there and you're a believer, and whether you're a Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Jew, Scientologist, Raelian, Rastafarian, whatever it is, if you believe in something, if you just maybe you don't even believe in some sort of organized religion or recognized religion, you believe in something supernatural, and you think you have a good reason for us to believe that as well. 720-619-2288 is the number to call. You can also go down below here, and there's a link to call in studio where you can call in from your web browser. Please understand, if you're using a cell phone and you're calling in from a web browser on a cell phone, you may have to tap your phone to wake it up and then tap the browser to wake it up as well. It's a little kind of extra bonus feature with Call in Studio where you might have to wake it up before we can actually hear you. But we have another caller, and I'm going to switch to that real quick. Sloan is calling from Kentucky. Sloan's a theist, pronouns are he, him. And Sloan says that God has shown him a prophecy about 2028 and something about war. Hey, Sloan, you're on with John and Matt.
Hey, how you doing this week?
Good
I'm
stuff.
great.
Seems like a theme today,
okay.
doesn't it? What have you got then, Sloan? Tell us about your
our previous caller was calling in about with something akin to prophecy, and now you're calling in with prophecy. So what's going on?
Well, the reason that I thought about calling y'all in the first place was because I keep seeing the number 28. I've seen it since the flood happened here in Kentucky where I live at.
I thought it was the number 23. I saw that movie.
Oh, yeah, with Jim Carrey in it?
Yeah. But for you, it's 28.
For some, so I see a lot of numbers.
Where?
28.
Where? I'm sorry. There's a slight delay, and it's going to make it difficult. I guess the questions I have, and then I'll kind of back off. When you say you keep seeing the number 28, I really need to know what message you think you're getting, and why we would believe that your understanding of it is correct.
I don't know. I know why what I'm seeing, but I don't know why I could convince you to believe it.
That's kind of, I don't know. That's kind of strange. Maybe I'm not explaining this well. If I believe something, I can almost always explain to someone else why I believe it and why they should believe it as well. Especially if it was like, if I thought I was actually getting prophetic messages, I'd be able to tell someone why I was convinced and then let them decide, are they convinced as well? So I guess just start with, what message do you think you're getting? Where do you think it's coming from? And why do you think that?
Oh, okay. I think I'm getting the message that something as far as possibly, it could be possibly war or something. I'm not 100% sure, but it kind of makes me think by everything that I'm seeing that it could be war. Some kind of either war or some kind of attack on America or something. I'm not 100% sure. It just feels like it because of everything that I'm seeing. I truly believe it, that everything I'm seeing. And some of the things that I'm seeing is, I've seen a lot of videos. I try not to be on my phone because I don't know for sure, like, if it's an idol or whatever it could be. I want to rely on, if there is a God that is actually showing me these things, then I want to rely on him alone. And I've heard people talk about things, and the conversations that they're having, they're saying things, they're having normal conversations that it's kind of hard to explain, but I've heard them have conversations like normal conversations that we have, daily conversations. Like, I mean, it could be something as simple as somebody saying, go in there and do something, or I'm about to go to this place or something, and then they'll start talking about the subject of the number 28. Something will pop up about it, about 2028 or about 28. They'll say something about it. And then all of a sudden they'll start saying things like mentioning war and everything. And they're just having a normal conversation.
Yeah. You live in the United States, right?
Yes.
Are you aware of the significance of 2028?
No.
You're not aware that in 2028, that will be the next presidential election where Trump will not be eligible to run, but there are people suggesting he might run, that this every 4 years we have this election. Not only that, but I mean, it's a leap year because that's every 4 years, and there's an election and a presidential election, and that this is one of the most obvious reasons why the year 2028 is going to be talked about more than almost any other. As a matter of fact, now that we're in 2026 and the 2026 elections are winding down, the 2028 elections are the next one. And you weren't aware that that was a thing?
Yes. I know he's supposed to be like.
Why would it be
not be able to run or
surprising?
whatever.
Why would it be surprising that people would be talking about 2028 when that's the next presidential election?
I mean, I haven't really heard too many people talk about. It's hard to explain. Like I said, it's hard to really put into words. Like, I've heard people having normal daily conversations and mentioning, like, they don't talk about the year 2028, but they say like they'll mention the number 20 and they'll mention the number 28, and they'll say it like, and not even realize what they're saying. Like, they don't even, like, I'm hearing what they're saying, and it's like I don't know. Like,
So,
I've heard and seen a lot of things like that.
Do you know what confirmation bias is?
Yes, that's what we talked about, I believe, last week or whatever.
So is it possible that now that you're fine-tuned to this number 28, that you're noticing every time a number 28 bus goes by or somebody mentions 28 in a discussion about numbers, and you're just ignoring all the times they talk about 26 or 35 or 48? Is that possible?
I don't think so, because I listen to just about everything they say, and if they say certain numbers, I'll pay attention to it. If they say certain phrases, I'll pay attention to it. I've even written down some of the phrases that I've heard them say, and written down like certain words that they
It's
said.
extremely unlikely that you're counting all the times people don't talk about the number 28. It's extremely unlikely that you're paying attention to that. And because you don't have access to that stream of data, it's going to skew the significance that you place on the times when you do hear the number 28. This is a well understood human psychological phenomenon. We understand it very well, sometimes referred to as an availability heuristic. It means that when something has got significance in your mind, like when you learn a new word and then you see it popping up everywhere, or you get interested in a particular car and then you start seeing them on the road everywhere. They haven't just arrived. You just start paying attention to them because they've achieved a significance in your mind. Do you think that's a more likely explanation for you noticing the number 28 popping up in your life? Or is a more likely explanation that a magical being who created the entire universe is engineering these conversations to tell you something?
I don't know what's more likely. I just know what I'm experiencing, and it's more than I've ever experienced before. So I don't. It's hard for me to just say. Yes.
So what I took notes, and evidently you took notes too, because you said you wrote down some stuff. You said you've seen a lot of videos, but you try not to watch videos because you want to rely on God alone. And you've heard people having conversations, simple ones like go in there and do something, and then they mention the number 20 and 28. But you told the call screener that God has shown you prophecy about 2028. So what I'm hearing is you hear the number 2028. You're not completely sure what it's about. You were evidently unaware that the next major U.S. election is in 2028, and that might skew the likelihood of those numbers. But let's imagine for a second that God has an important message, a prophecy that he wants to deliver. Why is he delivering it to you? Why is he delivering it via, I guess, the world's worst version of charades ever, such that you're not remotely clear what the message is, but you're comfortable enough and convinced enough that you would call in to some godless heathen skeptics just to say, I think God's showing me something, but I have no idea what it is. I mean, how can this message possibly be useful to people? And why would God do it this way?
Okay, here's how I feel like the prophecy came to me. I had a dream of a flood, and that flood, it happened. Like, it might not have been the flood from the dream, but a flood happened after I dreamed, and I ended up in a school building after I dreamed about being in the school building after a flood. And it happened on the 28th of July. It was my dad's birthday. I was 28 years old. My mom's 20 years older than me. My dad's 28 years older than me. And all kinds of other stuff. I'm not going to mention anything else because it gets kind of personal, but I know it's probably like you're going to say it's confirmation bias and everything, but there's way more than that. That's just something that I've really thought about. Like,
so,
this is something
3 years ago
truly,
in July, you had a dream of a flood and it flooded. And because that was the 28th of July and you were 28, now you're hyper tuned for the number 28. But the question I asked was, if God has a prophecy for you, why did he pick you? And why didn't he give you enough information to demonstrate this to anyone, including yourself?
I think my mom told me she had a dream that I think she was younger, and she mentioned something about the writing on the wall. And I went to a church, and they had Mark 11:17 on the wall. And there was a guy that was preaching, and he was talking about, he was reading I think it's Ecclesiastes or something like that, where there's different time, like there's a time to love and there's a time to hate, there's a time for this and there's a time for that. Well, there was a list of 14 different times for, like, I guess, positive, and 14 different kinds of, like, negative times or whatever. And that was 28. And this is when the first time I mentioned it to anybody other than, people in my household. So,
can you see the screen?
No.
Oh, well, I put a question above my head, which was, what question did I ask you?
Okay, you've asked me
just now, just the last one.
A multi question. I'm pretty sure. Basically, where did I get the? I think the question that I'm answering is, where did I get the revelation from God? Where did it come from? That's kind of what I'm trying to answer.
I was asking, so if God's got a prophecy that, like a message that he wants to convey to people, do you know why he would pick you and why he wouldn't be clear enough for it to be useful?
I don't know why he picked me and why I would be a useful candidate or why anything like that. Well, I don't know why it's useful.
If God had an important message if God had an important message for us, wouldn't he want to be clear? Or do you think God's trying to not be clear?
I think he would want to be clear, and I think it's pretty clear. It's just I don't know for sure, like. But it is kind of clear, like
I don't think it's clear at all. And you literally said that you did not understand it, and it might be this, and it could be that. What is it that you think's clear about this?
I believe that something in 2028 is probably going to happen that we need to probably prepare for.
I believe that something's going to happen in 2028 as well.
I believe it's probably going to be to America, and I believe America probably should.
I believe something will happen to America in 2028.
I believe we're supposed to repent and we're supposed to prepare. I believe we're supposed to dig wells. Dig wells.
We're supposed to dig wells?
It's supposed to be something. Yes.
Wow.
I don't know what about, but
so now, Sloan, I'm gonna take a step back because John definitely has questions and is eager, but new words have entered our discussion from out of nowhere after everything else. God needs us to dig wells, evidently. I don't know what that has to do with the number 2028 or why we need to dig wells do we need to dig wells before 2028 in preparation for that? And what about people who can't dig wells? I don't know. John, are you able to dig a well where you are?
I mean, I can try, but the ground here has a lot of clay. So
you're not in the United States, though.
I'm not. No, but I don't. Who knows how far this
I believe
this prophecy extends.
I'm going to make a prophecy right now that something's going to happen in the UK in 2028, and I'll even predict that somebody will need to dig a well in 2028 in the UK.
It's possible. It is possible. This is a really, really curious claim. So, like, think about it. If you were a god and you had something really important that you wanted to let people know, would this be the method that you would employ to kind of start leaking little occurrences of the number 28 in a vague kind of way, such that it could easily be confused with just the normal everyday occurrences of things? Would that be the technique that you would choose to communicate important facts about reality to people? Is that what you would do?
I don't know what I would do. I don't. I couldn't. That's.
I mean, there's a hint here, isn't there? Because the fact that this story is so confusing suggests that if this is God's chosen method, he's not very competent, is he? He's chosen a method which just coincidentally happens to look exactly like a message not being communicated. What does that say about God's kind of competence to tell his people about important stuff? Because if I was a god and I needed people to know that a particular year was really important, that they needed to dig wells and repent, I would maybe spell it across the night sky and stars, or inject it directly into everybody's awareness as a feeling of certainty around the world, that everyone woke up one day knowing this as a fact. But, to just sort of vaguely, manipulate reality so that Sloan hears the number 28 occasionally, it's a little ineffective, isn't it? Why is God so lame at communicating?
I don't know. Ask him about it. I'm just telling you what I've experienced. I don't want to say experienced. Whatever is going on, I've said what I need to say. So
yeah, it's pretty wild.
That
that's all you needed to say. Are you sure that God didn't need you to say anything else?
I honestly think that's it. I said pretty much what I need to say, but I just thank y'all for listening to me, because last time I didn't really get to explain anything.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put up a poll, and we're going to find out if God picked the right messenger. But thanks, Sloan, for calling in, and thanks God for not telling us. Well, evidently God wants us to repent and dig wells, right, Sloan? That's the message.
I'm assuming that's what I'm supposed to tell you. If I'm wrong, then but if I'm right, then I'm right. So
Well,
If
yes,
I'm
I would
wrong, I'm
agree.
wrong.
If
If
you're
I'm
right,
right,
you're
then
right. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. I'm still not clear on how we can ever tell if you were right or wrong.
It's if something happens in 2028 in America.
If something happens in 2028, how will that demonstrate whether you were right or wrong about us needing to repent and dig wells? I don't know. But thanks, Sloan.
Wild.
you're welcome.
Wow,
There you go.
it's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I used to laugh at the doomsday preppers, and I I don't necessarily laugh at them as much anymore. Um, I'm not stockpiling, buckets of food just in case, but I do have, like, we have taken more of an interest in and in gardening and in raising livestock, actually. So like meat rabbits and stuff like that. Not because I necessarily think that, the end of the world is coming, but because I can't rule out the possibility that supply streams are going to get shut down and things are going to be more difficult as more and more wars start up, as the billionaire class takes over more of the world. Um, I think things are going to get worse. I'm not quite at the doomsday stage, but you know what? I got some rabbits. We'll see how it goes. I really like them, so I hope that I don't ever have to eat them. But on the off chance that I'm really hungry, they're good. I've had them before. Um,
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll get a vegan caller now. By the way, I think that veganism is morally virtuous, but I don't not necessarily convinced it's a moral duty. But if all you're going to do is say that I'm immoral for doing that, cool. Um, I'll be the one that survives the apocalypse, evidently. But and not you or the rabbit. Anyway, sorry. I wasn't trying to joke going down there. It is strange to me because I've given lectures on prophecy, and as somebody who used to believe um, all sorts of things. I used to believe Jesus fulfilled prophecy. He did not. I used to believe that there were countless prophecies in the Bible that had come true. There are not. I lectured as a skeptic also on how, in order for us to consider something a prophecy, A, it needs to be in place before the events that supportedly fulfill it. It needs to be specific enough so that you can identify without interpretation and fudging the event that it's predicting when it happens. And it can't be the case that there are people actively working to make it come true. Like, if I order a medium rare steak, the waiter is not fulfilling prophecy when I get a medium rare steak. But since I've never gotten the steak that I ordered almost ever in my entire life, it just makes me less convinced of prophecy. But it's strange to me that somebody thinks, hey, I keep seeing these numbers and I think it's a prophecy from God. And I should probably call in and let the atheist know. And it's all still unclear, but doggone it, um, it's important that they repent and dig wells.
I didn't see that one coming.
I didn't either. It's wild.
Yeah.
But hey, we've got other theists on the line here. And maybe they're not all about prophecy, or maybe they have better prophecies. Kyle's calling from New York, pronouns are he, him. Something about arguing the existence of God and the nature of God. Not religious, but I do believe in God. So, hey, Kyle, what is it? How are you doing, first of all?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you doing?
Great.
Hello?
Fat, dumb, and
Yeah.
happy.
Wait, so I can start. We can start the discussion right here.
Yeah. Tell us
Hello? Yeah.
what you think we should believe as well.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm prescribing my beliefs to anybody, but I used to be.
Hello?
My bad. I'm so sorry. I accidentally muted myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you now.
Hello. Oh, got you. So, I used to be a Muslim. But I was brought up in a Muslim family, but I left the religion because science just shows that Abrahamic religion is just false, so I don't believe it at all. but so I was a hardcore atheist for a nice amount of years, but now I've moved to more of a theist position, to where I believe that a higher power sparked off the Big Bang, and that I also believe in theistic evolution. So I believe that if God, right, he's going to use evolution as his mechanism, right, natural selection as his mechanism for changing life. And so, yeah, basically, I would say that, like, humans are special in a sense that he has a plan for humanity, but I also feel like we are still primates or mammals. You know, we came from single-cell organisms, but I do believe that was all planned out. So what would you say to that?
Well, that's a lot. And I'll say that I absolutely disagree with everything that you've said, but I'm interested
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I know, it's shocking. But I'd love to know what good reasons you have for them. But because we're talking about a higher power sparked off the Big Bang, you believe in theistic evolution, that humans are special and that God is carved out of space and that he uses natural selection. That's a whole bunch of different things. So let's start with just like the first one. What evidence do you have? And when you say a higher power sparked off of the Big Bang, are you saying an intelligence, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what evidence do you I'm sorry, there's a delay, and when I start talking, I can't hear you. It shuts you down. So when you say an intelligent higher power sparked off the Big Bang, what evidence do you have for that?
I don't have concrete evidence that a higher power sparked it off, because the Big Bang itself, right? It's a theory, and a theory is a large body of facts, right? So we can't see the event itself, but like we have a whole lot of facts that basically let us know that the Big Bang happened. And my argument is this, right? There's a bunch of different theories in physics. Some people believe that there used to be a universe before our one existed, and then the Big Bang happened and we're version 2.0. Other people believe that our universe is just one place in time, and then there's other Big Bangs happening throughout the larger multiverse. My large point is that it makes sense for there to be, and this is just my opinion. Yes, sir. Yeah, this is just my opinion. For that, I just think that it makes sense for us to be having this conversation, for human life to exist, that a higher being is in control over the larger multiverse, or whatever you want to call it, that sparked existence off, right? That's just my rationale. Like, why is there something rather than nothing, right? The universe could just be an empty vacuum, right? It is like, we don't even need to have particles. Like, there's large parts of space that are like virtually empty. Like, the whole universe could be like that, but it's not. And it kind of just makes me, lean into the idea that, somebody is watching over us, and that, what, existence is here, and we're here for a reason.
Okay. So I asked what evidence you have that an intelligence sparked off the Big Bang, and you said all of that, but you started with, I don't have concrete evidence. Do you have any evidence?
I can't say that I do. I can't say that I do, but that's the thing with God, right? You can't prove it or you can't disprove it either way.
I don't know that. So should we shelve your here, let me see if I can short circuit this. Okay. If I were to ask you if you have evidence for theistic evolution, evidence that I'm going to bet that you don't have evidence for those things either. Otherwise, you would have included them. And this is you're leaning this direction without evidence, right?
Right.
Okay. So can we shift to, you just said you can't prove or disprove God. How do you know that?
I can't prove or disprove God. Well, this is the line of thinking that kind of led me to leave religion in the first place, right? But I just feel like the events that's happened in my life, but I can't use my life, to extrapolate evidence for the universe. I get it, but I just think that a higher power did kick off the. Well, let me ask you this:
No. I'm waiting for you to answer my question, and you didn't come anywhere near it. You restated your other thing. I was asking, how do you know that you can't prove or disprove God?
How do you know that you can't prove or disprove God?
Yeah, you claimed
You can,
you claimed that's the thing about God. You can't prove or disprove it. How do you know that's true?
right. I know that's true because God has to exist in an alternate dimension. I mean, he's not up, down, left, or right, somewhere, anywhere in the universe. Like, there's no evidence for God that we could see. So he has to be in another dimension, and we have no scientific way of getting to there. So there's no physical way we can prove the existence. Concretely, with the scientific method observation, we can't prove God. But we also can't disprove him because we don't know if he is out there in another dimension.
So, Kyle, I am not aware that God must in fact be in an alternate dimension, and I'm not aware that we are precluded from investigating alternate dimensions, even if we don't know of a method right now. But you're saying it's not possible.
Yes.
How do you know it's not possible?
Because when we look out into the cosmos, the further back we look out into space, right? The further we look basically towards the origin of the universe, because the further away in space we look, the longer it took for light to get to us. So we look 4 million light years away, 3 million. So it's like eventually when we get so far out, we literally look at the origins of the universe itself, like the early universe after the Big Bang. And I'm saying that within physical space, north, south, east, west, everywhere, there is no place for God. Like literally, he's literally not there, like in the literal sense. In like
how do you know that?
Space-time, we just do, because he's not out there.
I'm sorry, Kyle. I'm sorry, but this is not the kind of show where we just do is ever going to be acceptable as an explanation for how you know something. You're making claims. Hang on. I'm gonna take a step back here, because John's here as well, and I'm going to go ahead and speak for both of us right now and say that neither myself nor John know that God is into, you can't demonstrate it. We don't know anything about it. We don't know, that it's impossible to explore and investigate God. And yet there are millions upon billions of people who believe they've found the God that you think is not findable, but also you're convinced that a God is there, and you're convinced that you found the God that can't be found. Now, to me, that's just irrational.
I'll tell you why it's not, well, my fault, and not to cut you off, but I'll tell you why it's not irrational. It's not irrational because my point is this, right? We live in a physical reality, right? Space, gas giants, different star systems, different galaxies. It's physical space. I'm saying physically, in the physical world, in the literal sense, when we have these super advanced telescopes and we look out into all different directions of the universe, I'm saying God is physically, literally not there in the literal sense. That's why I use the term different dimension, because he has to be outside of our, space-time dimension continuum, right? I'm saying we literally have no way of verifying that.
Not only will I not agree to right, but you're saying you'd tell me why that's not irrational, and what you just described is also irrational. You are reaching conclusions that aren't warranted by either the structure of the non-argument that you're presenting, nor the information that you're pointing to support it. That it is by definition irrational. Unless you have a syllogism that is supported by evidence with the conclusion, therefore, God is undetectable, you haven't demonstrated that it is rational to reach that conclusion. But John, go ahead.
Yeah, Kyle, there's a tension here in the discussion, because every time Matt asks you a question which is very specific, I noticed that rather than answering the question, you just said more things about what your beliefs are, and then explained how impossible it is for us to know anything about the God that you're arguing for. It does kind of slightly suggest the question, well, then on what basis are you arguing for it, doesn't it? Because you've spent the last few minutes telling us how undetectable this God is, how he's not located in any particular place or time. On what basis are you beginning to even get close to concluding that this is a rational thing to believe? And what explanatory power does this idea have? What utility does it have? You're essentially suggesting something which is completely unfalsifiable and superfluous to requirements. Why would you do that?
I understand. Okay. I'm a little more clear on the discussion now. I'm not saying that, and this is, I'm not even in the, Matt, by the way, I'm a huge fan, Matt. Like, like, you're one of the reasons why I left Islam. Like, I love what
Please
you do.
stop.
By the way, big, like,
please stop.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Fanboy moment.
Thank you.
I just think that, human life is special, right? And I know that evolution just states that, I'm answering your question directly. I think that us being here, right, and having the ability to have rational discussion, and like, life is great. Life can be hell, but like, we're building towards a better future. And I feel like maybe I'm biased and I have no way of proving it, right? And I'm not saying that I have evidence and it's rational and everybody should believe it. I just think that us being here and the fact that we can build towards the universe is empty, it's scary, and we're just living on this small rock. It makes me believe that a higher power is looking out for humanity. And that's just what I believe. And can I be wrong?
That's
Absolutely.
delightful. That's delightful, Kyle. But you've not said a single sentence in the entire conversation we've had so far that actually provides a warrant for believing anything you're claiming. Are you aware of that?
Yes. No, I don't believe that. Listen, I think religion is total manipulation, and I don't believe it. Theistically speaking, I'm saying that it's more probability, if we're talking in terms of probability, that the universe could have came from nothing, or it could have, we spoke about the multiverse and how it just could be a natural event, right, through physics. And I actually think there is evidence. Lawrence Krauss proved that something actually can come from nothing. So, I'm saying that there is a chance.
I prefer that you don't. I prefer that you don't mention Epstein assholes that I no longer associate with, and also he didn't prove it.
I did not
he
know any
popularized
of that.
it.
But my point is that just the way just the same way I can't prove that my God that exists outside of this dimension exists. There's no way to also disprove it, because we can't.
Well, that's irrelevant. There's no way to disprove that there are invisible fairies at the bottom of my garden either. That's not a reason to believe it. So the fact that we can't disprove it is completely irrelevant. And as Matt said before, we don't know that we can't disprove it, because at the moment you're very vague about what your concept is here, and you still haven't said a single thing which would count as a reason why you should believe the claims you're making. All you've done when we've asked you to provide a reason why these claims are justified is provide more claims which also aren't justified. So you really are going to need to give us something a little bit more than just another list of other things that you believe without justification, because that's all that's happened so far. Respectfully.
No, absolutely. I mean, we can't really break it down on a mathematical level. I just feel like, do you think that something can happen without a cause?
I don't know.
I don't believe something can happen without a cause.
Some people would say that when you have a some people would say that when you have a radioisotope, a particular atom decaying in that moment doesn't have a direct cause. So it's possible that things can happen without a cause. Don't know.
Yes, but that radioisotope came from that it's part of an atom, and that atom was part of a larger element, and that element must exist in nature or the universe somewhere, somehow it must have started, right?
That's irrelevant as to whether things could happen without causes. We don't know. We can be unsure about that, but whether we know that or not, none of that provides a reason for thinking that some kind of magical supermind created everything. I think Matt has another question up now. You see it?
I absolutely, I understand. I just think that we're not really too much in disagreement, because we both agree in totality that religion is all fake. Now, I don't use the word in a bad way, like, trying to offend anybody, but it's just falsifiably not true. Absolutely not true. My thing is that why do you two fine gentlemen are you guys against the idea of like there being an all-powerful, all-seeing creator that is watching over us? Like, is that something?
It's not about being against ideas. It's about having reasons for the ideas that you hold.
Yeah,
you should always be able to give a reason. Yeah,
I'm not going to believe something until there's good reason to believe it, and I do not want to hold beliefs that are irrational. And in order for a belief to be irrational, for a belief to be rational, It needs to be justified by sufficient warrant. And in an epistemological sense, for me, that is a valid and sound or accepted sound argument, preferably supported by evidence and ideally empirical evidence when possible. You are in this strange spot where you have decided in an absolute abandonment of true skepticism to embrace cynicism, and every religion out there is just wrong, and they believe in something that is obviously false, and you can't prove it, but you still think there's something, and even though you have no evidence for it, you've now abandoned reason, and you no longer care about whether or not it's actually true. It's going to go with it. Well, that's not skeptical. It's not rational. And so my question is, how can you show that a belief you have about a higher power is in fact rational to hold?
Okay. The way I'm going to answer this question, and I am going to answer directly, I'll say that,
when you say the way I'm going to answer this question, and I'm going to answer it directly, all you had to do was answer it directly. I don't understand why there's a preamble. Just answer the question.
Because I can't give you a mathematical truth, and I can't give it to you in terms of like a scientific fact.
I'm sorry. Did the question in any way ask you to give me a mathematical proof? Yes or no?
No. Okay, so this
then
is my
why on
logic,
earth?
right?
Then why on earth are you bringing up that you can't give me a mathematical proof? I literally asked you. I told you how I determine if something is rational, and I literally asked you how you can show that your belief about a being, a higher power, is in fact rational. I don't need you to make a list of all the different ways you can't do it. I just need you to do the way that you determine it's rational, so that we can decide whether or not you have come across a new way of being rational that we're unaware of, or whether we can help you stop being irrational.
Okay, hold on. I got you right now.
You got me right now.
Second. I got you right now. I just want to make sure this comes out right. Okay. Human beings have a special place in the universe. I'm not reading this off anything. I swear to God, this is just what I believe. I think that human beings have a special place in the universe, right? Even though we do come from evolution, I feel like God put us in this position to evolve from these primates to where we could get to this point to where we can, damn, you know what's crazy?
Yeah, I know exactly what's crazy. What's crazy is that I believed for even a second that you would actually give a direct answer after saying you would give a direct answer. What you said had nothing to do with a demonstration of rationality. It was a repeat of what you'd said before. Human beings have a special place in the universe, even though we come from evolution. I think God put us in this position. All you're doing is once again stating again what you believe. And I'm not asking you what you believe. I could no longer give the slightest fuck what you believe. I'm asking, what is your position on demonstrating that what you believe is actually rational? Are you able to address that topic or not?
It's rational because when we look at all the other animals on this planet and the universe as a whole, we human beings are special. So wouldn't it be rational to assume that something put us in this place to be in the universe, doing the things that we're doing right now?
You've slipped into the details of your belief again. Can you understand?
No, but that's rational. Is that not rational?
Or general.
It's not rational, and you're not describing what's rational. See, logic. I'm going to step back for a second because I know John's getting ready to explain this. I asked you a question that was content agnostic. I'm sorry. I asked, why am I hearing stuff in the back? Are you working? Are you taking care of customers or something?
No, I'm not. I'm sitting in the back of a store that my family owns. Sorry, I'm right here in the back.
Okay. I asked you a question that was content agnostic. Logic is content agnostic. Epistemology is content agnostic. When I talk about what is rational is completely independent of the subject. There's not different rules for what becomes rational when you're talking about animals or intelligence or meaning or the number of atoms or whether or not the sky is blue. Rational is rational. And I was asking you to explain how you go about determining when your belief is rational. And instead, you kept giving the specifics about your belief. That's, John, you can continue. I'm sorry. That's what John was pointing out, is that you went back to specifics instead of focusing on the topic, which was rational. So let's try again.
How is it rational? Well,
I'm going to mute.
A lot of, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah. Just
yeah.
try and think carefully about the question you're answering, because this is going to determine whether the conversation we're about to have is productive or not.
Well, look at it like this. You guys are aware of superposition, how two particles could be in, like one particle could be in two places at the same time?
Hey.
That's not rational.
I promise you.
But
listen to me very carefully. Kyle, listen to me very carefully. Are you trying just to make me crash out? Because
no, but
you're
can't
talking
answer
about rationality. No, I'm going to mute you. I'm going to mute you. I'm going to mute you for just a second, because I suspect that you only called to fuck with me and to try to get me to crash out by saying some of the most ridiculously obtuse, irrelevant, distractive things that you could possibly say. I'm trying to have a conversation with you about what makes something rational. Okay? And you, who don't understand skepticism, don't understand epistemology, don't understand reason, don't understand what's rational, have decided to shift gears to superposition and quantum, which is the most cartoonishly predictable thing for people to do when they are absolutely flailing about and unable to have an actual conversation about what's rational. Let me throw out big topics that are potentially confusing, that are used by woo-meisters. I guarantee you, I'm going to make this as clear as possible, and then I'm going to mute myself again. There is absolutely nothing that you can say, or that anyone on the planet can say, about quantum superposition that is in any way relevant to epistemology. As I was pointing out, epistemology is content agnostic. The rules for what's true in quantum mechanics and what's believable and what's rationally warranted going to be the same as they are everywhere else. I don't need any more examples. I don't need examples about evolution. I don't need examples about how you think humans are special. I don't need examples and demonstrations of how little you understand about quantum mechanics. I just need you to tell me, how can you tell if a belief is rational? That's all we're trying to do. And I'm not going to dig in on this again, because I feel like now I'm just being rude to John. And I feel like you almost, matter of fact, Luke, when we get a chance, can we put up a poll to see if people would count that as a crash out on my part? Because Kyle got really close, and I don't want to.
I think you pulled it back, man. I think you pulled it back. So, Kyle, are you there?
Go ahead.
Are you aware of the fact that there are two ways of having this conversation, Kyle? One is on the level of the details that you originally started talking about. And we started off the conversation trying to have that. We can call that the ground floor, right? That's where you're trying to get into the details. You make claims. We ask questions about what's the support for those claims. And we're talking about the level of detail to do with the topics, right? Whether those topics are cosmic origins or evolution or other aspects of science, that's the ground floor. But we weren't having a productive conversation, because every time Matt asked you a specific question, you weren't answering it. And I might have asked you a couple of things which also weren't answered. So what Matt asked you was the question, how can you show that a belief is rational? The reason he asked you that was because we needed to move from the ground floor, where all the detail happens, up to the 10th floor, where we look down on all the detail below us, and we make the rules about how we're going to engage with it before we actually engage with it. And that means that when we do engage with it, we can do so having agreed some principles, right? Like like what makes a good argument and what should we pay attention to and what should we not pay attention to. And that's why Matt tried to ask a question which is more meta, right? It's more general, to say, like, let's forget about the details at the moment. Let's just ask a more general question. How can you show that a belief is rational? And your response to that was to go straight back down to the ground floor again and start talking about evolution, how special humans are, and quantum mechanics, but without actually answering the question he asked you. So can you, first of all, before you answer it, can you see the value in the question he asked?
Yes, I can. I absolutely can.
Okay, so let's go back up to the 10th floor then, and your opportunity to answer that question. How can you show that a belief is rational?
You can show that a belief is rational when it aligns with the corresponding evidence, right? Like if it's in line with up-to-date evidence and it falls within reason, that means it's rational, correct? Or am I wrong?
It's part of it. I mean, it can align with evidence, but yeah, I mean, that's not a bad start. You could say that it's warranted, right? You could say that a belief is rational when it's warranted by evidence, not just aligns with. Because I could say fairies at the garden, at the bottom of my garden, align with the grass growing well, right? And then I could say, well, therefore, that's a reason to think that I see the grass is growing well, and now I've provided evidence for fairies. It's not just aligning with, it's actually providing epistemic support for, which is a bit more than aligning with. So it was not bad, but not quite there. So what evidence can you provide that gives an epistemic warrant for the things you've said, the claims you've made about, say, cosmic origins? What is the specific evidence that justifies your position?
Okay, I'll give you 3 points, right? 3 points. I've been jotting down notes as you guys have been talking, because I just want to keep track of this conversation. He originally had asked me that why can I've been trying to, answer the questions directly. I apologize sincerely if that there was a miscommunication. He had asked me.
That's okay.
About
let's just get to the evidence.
I got you. Here's the evidence. Here's the 3 points, right? I said that the universe had a beginning and everything that begins requires a cause. I think that reason, for the most part, dictates that the universe cannot come from nothingness, and then it required a first cause, right? Hold on.
No,
please,
I don't think
sir,
you.
please.
No, you're definitely not going to tell me to hold on. I want to make sure, John. Do you recall him ever approaching those statements that are tied to the Kalam? Because this is the first I'm hearing. Did I just miss
noticed that? The Quran.
Yeah, we both would have. The Kalam.
No,
argument.
not the Quran. The Kalam cosmological argument. I don't recall you saying what you claim you just said. And it's the type of thing. I'm sorry, I'm still talking. I know that's difficult for you, but stop. This is the type of thing that if you had said it, it would have triggered something in my brain from the 20 years of doing this. And I'm trying to figure out right now, not your fault at all, Kyle. Did Kyle actually say this and I'm just losing my mind? Or is Kyle now dishonestly claiming that he said something that he did not in fact say?
Co-host, back me up. We were talking about isotopes, were we not? And I asked you, did something happen without a cause? And then you said something about isotopes.
That's a different conversation to where the universe came from. Whether things can happen without causes is a completely different conversation to whether the universe needed a cause. That's a different conversation. They're kind of first cousins.
Yeah, fair enough. But I was trying to make a larger point, and that was my larger point. And then you had said that
the problem is that you used very specific language that everything begins to exist has a cause for its existence. That is literally the first premise of the popular version of the Kalam cosmological argument. I know it by heart. I've debated it and said it and corrected it. I'm going to guess 1,000 times conservatively. And so that
I did a video on it
same.
Today, funnily enough.
That is not the same as saying, hey, why is there something rather than nothing? It's a very, very specific thing. And now we've moved this back, and John has managed to get you to the point where you're now trying to present the case for why you think something is rational based on your new thing. And all of a sudden you presented word for fucking word the first premise of William Lane Craig's Kalam cosmological argument, which I'm pretty sure I did not hear prior to this. And I needed to check with my co-host to make sure that I wasn't, playing chess or falling asleep or doing something else, because it's really strange. And I'll tell you why it's strange, Kyle, and then I'll stop talking again. It's strange because nothing you say makes any sense to me. We get prank called a lot. And when I say that, I'll be clear, and then I'll stop. This is a genuine call. I'm not, just listen to me. Okay? I get prank called a lot. I get lied to a lot. I get trolled a lot. I get people trying to piss me off a lot. Many of them are successful. I am pretty good at taking notes. I have lots of notes here about this particular call. I am pretty experienced at assessing these things. And for some reason, even though John did it a little differently than I did, I would have said that the basement is where the epistemological foundation is and you build on it. But if you want to look at it from the 10th floor down, it doesn't matter. This is one of the reasons. It's really interesting to me that John's 10th floor model resonated with you when it's literally, sorry, not literally, when it is logically identical to what I was describing that you weren't getting. And it really feels like I'm being punked. And then when somebody in the midst of this starts word for word going with an argument I'm really confident they didn't present, all of a sudden red flags go off. Now let me sum this up with one little thing. I don't remember everything that I used to remember. I'm as quick in some areas as I was, but one of the most frustrating things about the show is that we can ask somebody a question over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and they never get anywhere near the question. They don't know what the question is until I forget what the question is. And this is a tactic that they'll use to deflect and then pretend like, oh, no, this is what I've been saying all along. I guarantee you, Kyle, if you had said the beginning of the Kalam cosmological argument at any point prior to this, either John or myself would have flagged that's what was going on. And so when it came out of the blue, my alarm bells went off and I needed to figure out, am I losing my mind or did Kyle just claim to say something that he absolutely didn't say? And now I'm good to go because now I'm confident that you absolutely did not say that prior to this. I know I can rewind, but I didn't want to wait for the rewind. So please continue answering John's question about how you can warrant with evidence your position about a God.
All right, so I have 3 bullet points, like 3 points that I want to make. They're I feel like 3 points of evidence. I feel like it was just a miscommunication when I was talking about ask your co-host, can something happen?
I swear I don't need you to say anything other than the defense. I don't need apologies. I don't need every second you spend not presenting the case for your belief being rational is another second that my heart needs to go see the doctor tomorrow.
But you have to let me speak for longer than 20 seconds before, you know what I'm saying, before to get a point out. Like, with all due respect.
Actually, I don't need to let you speak at all, ever. Okay? And the fact that I just pointed out what was going on and very clearly instructed you to stop wasting our time, and that you then decided to complain that I needed to let you talk and get more points out. You've been on for 34 minutes. I have copious notes on what you've said, including all the stuff that didn't make any sense, including the things that weren't supported. We have repeatedly asked you the question over my head. We had to ask you multiple times and gave you multiple opportunities to answer it. And it was like pulling teeth to get you to actually answer it. And then John asked the follow-up question about what evidence can you present that shows that your God belief is consistent with your definition of rational. And then you send us off on a tangent. And then when I put you back on track, you decided to try to tell me what I can and can't do and how I need to let you speak. The implication there is that I have somehow been unfair with you that I have somehow not given you ample opportunity to answer the question. And that, my friend, is an absolute fucking lie. That is some whiny ass bullshit that comes from someone who recognizes that they're not going to be able to present the case for what they're saying, that they are not, in fact, necessarily rational. And they're not really confident that they're going to be able to show they're rational. So now I need you to prove me wrong. Put me in my place. Do it without whining about, oh, you got to give me time, because I'm going to give you time. But I'm only going to give you time to make your case. I'm going to give you zero time to whine, to bitch, to moan, to dissemble. I'm going to give you zero time to imply that I have somehow been unfair to you. Because of all the things I'm confident about today, the fact that I have been more than fair with you is really, really high on the list. And it's much higher than my confidence that you will ever be able to give an answer for why your position is rational. So now is your opportunity. I'm going to take you off mute. I'm going to mute myself on my own show. And I'm going to give you the grandest opportunity ever to talk in defense of your position, and absolutely zero, not 1/4 of a pubic hair's width of leeway to whining and pretending that I was unfair. So here we go. Kyle's coming back now, and Kyle's going to explain, in answer to John's question, how his belief in a God is in fact rational.
Okay, all right. So much, all right. I'll give you 3 bullet points because I was just trying to clear something up. It would require 5 seconds.
When I say not 1/4 of a pubic hair's leeway, thanks for proving me right. All right. Well, John, I'm sorry that we're not going to have to wait a lot longer, but yeah.
There we are. We didn't even get into the Kalam, which is where it was going. Fair enough. We could have saved so much time if we just started with that.
Hey, I tell you what, instead of wasting everybody's time, before we take this next call, we've got another theist on. We're going to take in just a second. So Felix, hang on, you're next. John, go ahead and it's funny. Somebody says Matt does have a difficult time allowing the co-host airtime. As I'm saying, John, go ahead and give them a run through of the Kalam. Yes, oh. Ron. Yes, Ron, that's entirely my fault that repeatedly asking somebody to be a decent interlocutor on my show it turns me into a raging asshole. I'm so sorry, Ron. Thank you.
It's fair.
I'll donate $50 on your name, Ron.
I was very happy for Matt to do what needed to be done then, because it was getting a little out of hand. So the Kalam cosmological argument, as popularized by William Lane Craig, says that everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, and therefore the universe has the cause. And then using sleight of hand and magic and some sort of advanced pretzel making, they managed to get from there to Jesus of Nazareth, or whoever the chosen deity is. But the argument fails for a number of reasons. Some people would say that it fails right out of the gate, that the very first premise that everything that begins to exist has a cause is something which is asserted but not actually demonstrated. Because there may, as we said before, there may be things that begin to exist that don't necessarily have at least approximate cause. But even if you grant the first premise, the second premise is much, much harder to establish. That the universe began to exist is not something which is currently accepted. People would like it to be, and it may have been fashionable 40 or 60 years ago in physics to make that claim, but it certainly isn't now. And it certainly isn't the majority view of experts in this area, of cosmologists, that the Big Bang represented the beginning of the universe existing. It may have represented a fundamental change of state from a very, very hot, dense state into a rapidly expanding state, but it has not been established, nor is it part of the Big Bang theory, that prior to the Big Bang, nothing existed. And that's why the argument fails. And even if you were to grant those two premises, it still wouldn't get you to the cause being conscious, being a mind, not being another principle of nature. It's actually it's a terrible argument. I'm surprised that so many people make it. But in a nutshell, that is what it is.
Sorry, I was trying to get this guy to tell me what charity he'd like me to donate to, since I'm clearly the problem here. And then somebody else asked a question about, do I sound different because my S is, yes, I don't have my upper teeth in today. Good catch. Somebody knocked all my teeth out. Granted, it was a dentist and it wasn't somebody just because I'm an asshole. But I mean, either could have happened. All right, here we go. Felix is calling from Puerto Rico, and it just says, prove God's existence. The evidence is the argument. And I would say I definitely want evidence with an argument, but I wouldn't say the evidence is the argument. So hey, Felix, what's going on? And how on earth are you calling to prove God's existence, or are you just want to talk about it?
How are you, Matt and John? How are you?
I'm doing great.
Is this the same Felix who was on my show a couple of days ago?
Yes, John. How are you? You remember me?
Yes. So let's get to the argument then, Felix.
Okay, I'm going to prove that God is self-evident. Okay.
Self-evident. Okay.
To everybody. To everybody.
Self-evident to everybody. That's quite the feat. So you're going to prove that Matt and I both perceive this God right now?
Yes.
Go for it.
Okay. And I'm also going to prove that Christians are more patient than all atheists. All Christians are more patient than all atheists.
Sure. Why don't you start with the first one and see how that one goes before you try to get to the second one? Because you're not going to be able to do either. Okay. But let's watch you fail at the first one first, and then we'll see where we go after that, shall we?
Excuse me?
So you're not going to be able to do either of those. So let's watch you fail at the first one first, and then we'll see how we go with regard to the second.
Did you say I'm going to fail?
Yeah. Begin failing now, please. Convince us that Matt and I are both, that the God is self-evident to both of us and everyone else watching.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to prove it right now. God is self-evident because the universe is contingent, and because the universe is contingent, God follows as the creator. That is self-evident.
Right. So that argument fails in two ways. First of all, you can't establish that the universe is contingent. Secondly, even if you could, that wouldn't make God self-evident to us. It might just mean that you find that particular line of argument convincing. But I can tell you for sure that Matt and I both don't. So that argument fails. The God is not self-evident to either of us. Have you got anything better?
Okay, I'm going to show you now. Is something self-evident needs explanation or not?
Was that a question?
Hey, Felix, didn't we talk about this just the other day?
Yes, but John wasn't here.
Yeah, okay. But when we talked about it the other day, you ended up leaving because your assertion. So, for example, the nose on my face is something that we generally use as an example of something that's self-evident, right?
Correct. You can use that.
Yeah. But I wasn't born knowing what a nose is and knowing everything about the nose. The fact that I'm able to observe it doesn't mean information about the nose was self-evident. I had to be taught that, just like you did.
Correct.
Okay, so the fact that I can observe something and detect something doesn't mean I have an understanding of it. It just means I observed it, right?
Exactly, which proves my point.
No, it doesn't prove your point yet. Because if that proves your point, then we're in agreement. And so are you saying that there's a God of the universe that I can observe?
I never said you can observe. I said it is self-evident.
Yeah, Felix, here. I appreciate the fact that like whatever your primary language is, I suck at it for sure. And you're doing great at English. But I want to make sure we're not, you know, self-evident as we just described it just means I'm able to observe it without hindrance, right?
Depends what you mean by observation.
Okay. Can you name something that you think is self-evident that I cannot detect through my sensory apparatus?
Without your eyes?
No, well, I said my sensory apparatus. So I'm talking about my eyes, ears, touch, and my brain.
Okay, understood. But first,
no, not but first.
John...
No, not but first. We're entertaining this. I need you to give me an example of something because I try to say something is self-evident if it is observable. Are you saying that God is not observable?
Okay, observable, you mean with your eyes?
Okay, Felix, I just answered this question, and now it's difficult for me to take you seriously. Is God detectable?
Yes.
By what method?
By the self-evident method that each one will use to detect it as each one encounters God.
Oh dear. Felix, it almost sounds like you're saying that you're so delighted with the quality of your own argument that everybody else must find it as convincing as you do, and that's the grounds by which you label it self-evident. It's quite amusing if that's the case. Am I right about that?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you just said.
So it sounds like you think that your contingency argument is so convincing to you that it would be equally convincing to everyone else, and that's the reason why you're saying it's self-evident. Is that am I right about that?
Sure, it has to be like that logically first.
So what's funny about that is that if that's how arguing works, then I can say God's non-existence is so completely obvious to me that it should be self-evident to you. Does that argument work as well? Do we have the same rules both ways?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
Yeah, if I just said, like, it's so obvious to me that when you look at the universe, it's not designed and there isn't a God there. If I made that claim, not necessarily making it, but if I did, and I said it's so obvious to me that it must be self-evident to you also, would that be a valid argument? Would that be okay to make that argument? Would you find it convincing?
No, because I see it self-evident that God exists.
Okay, so it's one rule for you and then a different rule for everyone else. I'm glad we got that sorted out. Fair enough.
Okay, so can you and Matt debate me in modern day debate one day? Can we set up that?
I don't think
no, I won't debate
Felix.
with that organization anymore. But you can book a debate with me. That's something that's certainly possible. I just don't think it would be a good idea, and I don't think you're actually willing to pay.
Okay, I'm willing to pay anything. How much is it?
It's $5,000 for an in-person debate plus expenses and travel.
And if I win, do I have to pay?
I don't do debates with the idea of winning. I don't even consider. How would you tell who won?
Because you will be convinced that God is self-evident.
Right. It would be self-evident that you won.
If you convince me that God exists, I will waive the $5,000 fee. Yes. It'll be worth learning that God exists.
That's a bargain, Felix. Okay, you want to get a checkbook
However,
okay.
Would you agree that if you don't convince me, you owe me $25,000 for wasting my time?
Agree.
Okay. When and where should we do this?
Whenever you want.
Okay.
Great.
Can we set up that?
Yeah. Let's draw up a contract where if you convince me that God exists, you can get away without you don't have to pay me for the debate. And if you don't convince me that God exists, you have to pay me $25,000 plus expenses.
Okay. Okay. But
I'm going to need the money.
I'm
going to need the money put into a trust to make, because just to make sure that you can pay. But we have one more thing that we have to do, Felix, and that is, how will you tell if you've convinced me? How can everybody tell if I'm actually convinced that a God exists?
Okay, that's what I was going to say, but I couldn't say it. I'm going to say it now. That was my point. Okay, I cannot convince you. I can only say true things that you might be convinced of or not convinced of, because you might want to believe them or not, even if they
I'm
are
sorry.
true.
I'm sorry, but if I'm not convinced, you owe me the money, right?
No, I just told you.
I'm sorry. I thought we agreed that if you convince me, you don't have to pay, and if you don't convince me, you would owe me $25,000. And I thought you said yes to that. And now you're saying all you can do is say true things, and I'm either going to be convinced or not, but you're not going to pay.
Because I don't know if you're going to accept the truth or not. I cannot know that.
Okay. How about when you say you can only say true things, if you say anything in the entire debate that you cannot demonstrate as true, would you still have to pay me then?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay. Because there's things you've said here now that aren't true. Like
what?
I'm asking, so you say that God is self-evident. I'm not convinced that that's the case. And so we tried to define. I'm sorry, I'm explaining to the people. I know you know. I'm trying to explain to the people who don't know. We tried to define what sort of things would fit into the category of self-evident. And we didn't do a very good job, Felix. We couldn't come to agreement on what is or isn't self-evident. Like, for example.
Sure we did. Of course we did.
No, like, look, if I say we didn't come to agreement, then we definitely didn't, because I'm disagreeing with you as I say it, right?
But I can show you otherwise.
You can show me that I agree?
Yeah. Ironically, Felix, I would have thought the failure to come to an agreement on this is in fact self-evident.
Excuse me?
John said the fact that we're not in agreement is self-evident.
One of the few things in the conversation so far that is.
But not in agreement with what specifically? That the universe exists?
Yeah.
We don't agree that the universe exists?
Yeah, I think there's a problem here, Felix, where either... what's the most charitable way to put this? I'm not sure you and I are able to communicate in a way that is beneficial to anyone on the entire planet.
Why not?
Well, because I'm trying to understand what you mean by X is self-evident, and you're not able to explain it in a way that is clear.
Okay, I can do it.
Okay, let's do it. What do you mean by self-evident?
Okay. Exactly the same thing you mean by it when you know a self-evident truth.
Okay, Felix, if I put it to a vote and people were honest, my prediction is that if I gave them the three options, the vote would be split between whether or not you are delusional or dishonest. because what you just
Why?
described is I'm telling you, I'm literally telling you right now, because what you just did, what you just gave, was a tautology, not a definition.
But you believe in self-evident things, don't you?
Well, I'm not sure that I believe in self-evident things because you haven't described what you mean by self-evident.
Okay, bachelors are married men. That's a self-evident truth.
Ah, that is a definitional truth.
It's not self-evident?
No, we defined it thus.
So it's not self-evident?
Yes, correct. It is in fact a tautology, but only because we've defined it. Now, that's when we talk about the term bachelor and married and things like that. What the terms point to, the concepts, they mean the same thing. They're a tautology, that the person who's not married is not married. That's not a self-evident truth. That is just an identity.
Okay, so do you know any self-evident truth?
I don't know what you mean by self-evident truth.
No, I'm not asking what I mean. I'm asking if you know any self-evident truth by your standards.
I don't know any self-evident truths according to what you mean by self-evident truths. What I meant by self-evident truth.
But that is not what I'm asking.
I don't care what you're asking, honestly, Felix. I've tried to get definitions out of you, and honestly, at this point, I think you're just fucking with me.
No, I'm asking if you know any self-evident truth by your standard and definition.
I will be happy to tell you. I will be happy to tell you if I know of any self-evident truth as soon as you define self-evident truth.
But that is not what I'm asking.
But you're asking a question, and Matt's asking you to clarify what you mean so that we can all be on the same page, because it could be the case that what you identify as self-evident is not the same thing as what Matt identifies as self-evident or I identify as self-evident.
Exactly.
So for clarity, you should be able to explain it without just repeating that it's self-evident, because that is tautological. It's not actually an explanation. So what does it mean to you? What does it mean to you for something to be self-evident?
Exactly, John, and that's what I'm trying to do with Matt.
Answer the question,
do you know what's... Huh?
Answer the question I asked you.
Okay, do you know any self-evident truth?
That's not an answer. That's another question. What does it mean to you for something to be self-evident?
Okay,
I'm not convinced you really know.
To me, God is self-evident.
That's just an example of something that you think. Felix, you're swimming in the water's too deep that you're swimming in at the moment. You're not ready for this. This is very straightforward. You should be able to say something like, a belief is self-evident if the person contemplating it sees that it's undeniably true and can verify it in some way. For example, that would be exactly a kind of answer you might give.
Exactly.
Exactly, and that's my answer. That God is obvious, undeniable.
Right. So a follow-up question for you, Felix. A follow-up question for you might be: who is the person who judges whether a belief is self-evident? Is it the person experiencing the belief or the person telling them about the claim?
Both, because truth
Both
is independent of persons.
Right. So
well, that's the first thing you've said clearly that I agree with.
That is true. Yeah. Albeit misplaced here. So if you tell me that something is self-evident to me, but actually it isn't self-evident to me, which one of us is right?
If you say it's not self-evident to you and I find it self-evident,
you kind of missed the bus there. Let's try that again. If you tell me that something is self-evident to me, because let's not forget, this is how you started off. Your first claim when you came in was that you were going to show that God is self-evident to everyone, including Matt and including me. So if you tell me that something is self-evident to me and I look at that thing and I don't think it's self-evident, who's right?
Okay, I am right, you are wrong, and you are right under your standard.
Right. So is the claim belief X is self-evident to John a correct belief? Is it a correct claim? Is it a true claim if John is not remotely convinced of the claim?
Okay, what is the question?
So if you say a God is self-evident to me, to John, right? I'm going to use my own name here. So you make the claim. Felix says a God is self-evident to John, and John says, I don't think this is self-evident. Who is correct?
Okay, I am the correct one because I have the truth that is self-evident. But you are wrong.
So there you go. The blind spot, Felix, is this is why you're not prepared for this conversation, is that you cannot disambiguate. You can't tell the difference between your opinion about your correctness about the thing you believe in and the correctness of your opinion about what someone else believes in. This is basic. We refer to this as theory of mind. It's something that children start to get a grasp of normally around age 5. But that's something in the wiring there seems to not be connecting with you, because you seem to be conflating and confusing your opinions about God with other people's opinions about God. And that's why this argument fails.
Obvious.
Yeah.
Of course it's obvious. It's obvious
so that didn't
to
go,
me. That's how I know.
Of course. So that one didn't go great, did it?
And you cannot say it's wrong unless you prove it otherwise with evidence that I'm wrong.
Yeah. But here's the amazing thing, Felix, as my friend Sean is fond of saying, we have this amazing ability to read our own minds. Matt can do it. He's a magician. I can do it even though I'm not a magician. I'm able to discern at any given moment what my actual thoughts are. And the funny thing is that I'm going to do that more successfully than you are. So when you say that something is self-evident to me, and I self-examine and I go, this is not self-evident to me, that means your claim was wrong. And that's why this argument is dead on arrival. Shall we move on now?
No, that only explains that you didn't understand the concepts that make
you're right.
self-evident.
You're right, Felix. We don't understand, and we're going to go ahead and say goodbye now because we don't understand. And you win. You completely win.
There you go.
No,
yeah, you won. A winner is you, for great justice. Felix set us up the bomb. All right.
There you
go. We have a couple other theist callers, and I'm going to bet. Wow. I was about to bet that they're both going to be clearer than Felix, but honestly, my confidence is a little shaky. So let's see. Omen is a theist, pronouns are he, him, calling from Switzerland, who believes the resurrection of Christ was a fact beyond a reasonable doubt. Therefore, his claims are most likely true. I'd like to try an experiment, Omen, if I can. How are you?
I'm good, Matt. And John, thanks very much for taking my call. Please do. Yep.
Before you get started, I'm gonna short circuit before you get started. What the call screener wrote here is that you believe the resurrection of Christ was a fact beyond a reasonable doubt. Therefore, his claims are most likely true. Is that an accurate representation of your argument?
So, if I may, if you'll indulge me a little bit, I fibbed ever so slightly in my. Yep.
Hello?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you there.
Okay. The call screener has written down that you believe the resurrection of Christ was a fact beyond a reasonable doubt. Therefore, his claims are most likely true. Is that an accurate representation of your argument?
Yes. It's
okay. That is absolutely. Hang on. I said I wanted to short circuit this because I want to give John all the time. That is absolutely a fallacious argument, even if in fact it was a fact that Christ was resurrected. That would tell you nothing at all about whether or not his other claims are true. But I also reject the notion that it's a fact that it was resurrected. But I'm going to let you and John go at it because I'm going to reset.
that is the problem with your argument, is that even if we were to grant that Christ was resurrected, and we are nowhere near granting that, because the claims of there being sufficient evidence to believe this preposterous story are ludicrous. But even if we were to grant it, how would you establish that just because a person resurrected, that everything they said was true?
I agree with you. Would you mind just indulging a little bit of context as to why I wrote and why I called in?
But it would be great if you could answer the question, because this is at the heart of your argument. You're suggesting that a person resurrecting would mean that they could never be mistaken about anything they said or tell a lie or anything like that. If a person's able to come back from the dead, they're probably able to lie or say untrue things as well. There's no straight line from one to the other.
Sure. I think that the line between the two would be fuzzy. I think that if such a supernatural event were to have occurred, if a person claiming to be the Son of God was crucified and came back from the dead, clearly was crucified, was killed, there's no two ways about it. If we take that as hypothetically true, if he came back from the dead, the chances of him being that are raised.
Why?
No? If somebody came back from the dead, there's never been a case of that ever being proved, ever being observed, ever being...
There are many accounts of resurrections in the history. I mean, we can be skeptical about all of them, because actually we know that people, once they legitimately are dead, don't come back. But even if it did happen, why would it justify the claim that he's a god? Maybe something freaky happened and he came back from the dead, and it's the only time it's ever happened. And, we can inductively say that under most circumstances, people don't come back from the dead. But on that one occasion, someone did. That wouldn't justify believing that he's a god.
No, not directly. I think that if something so incredibly supernatural could be proved beyond any reasonable doubt, in fact, even more than a court might argue, and it was so obvious that this actually did happen, and the person who did come back from the dead was claiming to be the Son of God, etc., having all this well of wisdom within them, and knowing the mind of God, in fact, is the manifestation of God, that it would be more likely that is in fact true, because they've demonstrated it by this incredible supernatural feat. And
you can't even demonstrate that it would be supernatural. If people come back from the dead, it would be a thing that happened in nature, and it would be part of nature. It would just be an extremely rare event, never seen before or since, and we would have to update our definition of nature to incorporate the idea that occasionally people come back from the dead before cameras were around, and occasionally it happens, but it wouldn't necessarily be supernatural. You can't get from someone came back from the dead to it was supernatural and he's a god. Can you?
No, I mean, I can't. When I was asking for your indulgence a little bit on this, I'm very much an amateur, as I'm sure you can hear, an amateur lover of philosophy and trying to understand truth and what are the bigger questions in life. And this, I've been listening to arguments from the theist side, and this was an argument that was presented. I called in to say, the evidence for the resurrection is not in fact good, etc. And I just got tied up. And so I was hoping that I could understand a really strong, robust argument from your guys with your level of proficiency to say why you've now jumped ahead to say, okay, even if you grant the resurrection, it doesn't mean Son of God.
Do you want us to show you why you shouldn't grant it? Is that what you're asking for?
No, what I'm asking for, could you explain to me the solid argument for why the resurrection, the evidence is not beyond a reasonable doubt? It's not.
Yeah, that's what I just said. You want us to show you why it's unwarranted. It's unwarranted because there's absolutely no contemporary historical evidence outside of the Bible for any of these events. Do you think that in Matthew it says that the ground opened up and the dead wandered out of their graves and walked into town to say hello to everyone, but no historian thought to mention that, right? The ground opened up and zombies came out and walked into town to do a bit of shopping and socializing, and not a single person thought to write it down. There is literally zero contemporaneous extra biblical evidence of these events anywhere to be found. And the reason why you can say this with confidence lies in the pathetic excuses given by apologists in the face of this, which is to bring up primarily Tacitus and Josephus, who were writing long after the events, and they weren't attesting to the facts themselves. They were just attesting to the presence of believers, and that's beyond contention. We're not arguing about that. So the main reason is that there's no evidence for this. It's a fantastical story, a story which is so wild that it would require a great deal of evidence to warrant belief in it, and the level of evidence is low.
I'm wondering. Yeah, so I just released a video yesterday, and trust me, despite what people think, I'm not here to pat myself on the back or think that I'm the most awesome ever. That's why I have co-hosts in regularly who do this better than I do, including John. But I posted a video. It's not available publicly yet, so I don't want to go through it in detail, but it's about how Christianity is a con job. But when you say the fact of the resurrection is beyond a reasonable doubt, what's the strongest piece of evidence that goes towards eliminating your doubts that Jesus was in fact killed and resurrected? What's the strongest piece of evidence?
Well, I don't actually believe it. I'm sort of, let me say I'm on the fence. I'm trying to understand the mental gymnastics or argument gymnastics to try and get to truth without trying to,
I'm confused.
So
I'm confused because it says here that you believe the resurrection of Christ was a fact beyond a reasonable doubt. And when I asked you if that was accurate, you said yes. And now when I ask what piece of evidence do you think is strongest to eliminate your doubts, now you say you're on the fence.
Yeah. I understand that's confusing. I understand. So
So do you believe Jesus was resurrected?
No, probably not. No.
Do you believe in a
sounds that way
God?
to me.
Sorry, you're cutting in and out. It's very hard. I'm not sure why.
Do you believe in a God?
I think that
the answer to that is no, and I'm hanging up now, Omen, because you identified yourself as a theist and claimed to believe that Jesus was resurrected beyond. I have theists who are on hold right now. We have a rule here that we put theists first, so that people can call in and defend what they believe. What we don't put first is people who want to pretend to be a theist for a moment, so they can have a discussion about something they don't believe. So I'm gonna let you go, Omen. Call back, another time if you've got a topic, but we need to get to the people who are actually theists. I had the video. There's a video that I did yesterday. It's stuck in my head. Okay, this is going to sound, I don't know, this might sound bad, I don't know. So I do 4 videos a month for my Atheist Debates Patreon project. You can go to my personal YouTube channel there. You can watch the videos. They're available for free to everybody, but you can join my Patreon there and chip in a couple bucks and get advance. So if you want to see this video, you can go join my Patreon and you can get it early. There's the first advertisement I've done for my Patreon like all year. Patreon.com/atheist debates. There you go. The video is called, I think it's called A Christian Con Job. And what it does is it looks at the introduction to Acts and it looks at the introduction to Luke. Those 2 books, were written by the same person. That's not, I mean, that's what virtually every scholar agrees. And they begin almost identically. They're both letters to Theophilus. And nobody knows who that is or if it's a person, because it was both a name and a label. It means friend of God or loved of God or beloved of God. And in Luke, he begins by saying, hey, there's a bunch of people telling these stories. I went and interacted with people, and I studied this carefully from the beginning and wrote it down so that you would know that it's true. It's basically the introduction to Luke is I went and researched all this so that you don't have to get the story from somebody who wasn't here actually researching it so that you know it's true. And the book of Acts starts with 3 verses as well. Well, that I think Luke is 4 or 5 verses, but Acts is 3. And it is, hey, Theophilus, I wrote you before about all this stuff that happened with us. Now I'm going to write to you about what happened after the ascension and what the apostles actually did. And this was after Jesus came. This is in the first couple. I should just pull it up here. I'll read Acts 1. Dun, dun, dun. Dear Theophilus, the first book I wrote was about everything Jesus did and taught from the beginning until the day he was carried up into heaven. Before he went, he talked to the apostles he had chosen. With the help of the Holy Spirit, he told them what they should do. This was after his death, but he showed them that he was alive, proving it to them in many ways. The apostles saw Jesus many times during the 40 days after he was raised from the death. He spoke to them about God's kingdom. I'm going to go ahead and spoil my video, but I highly recommend anybody that wants to can join the Patreon. Anybody that wants to can wait. It'll be out at the end of next month, just before I head to NanoCon. This is stereotypical con job. It's telling a story that Jesus, after he was raised from the dead, spent 40 days demonstrating to the apostles that he was alive. Originally, I started this as a joke of, why would it take you 40 days to prove you're alive? All you got to do is walk in and it's self-evident that you're alive. And that was kind of the joke. And then I realized what was actually going on here. They're telling you Jesus proved it to them so that you'll believe it. So here's the thing. The all-knowing, all-powerful God of the universe constructed this scenario. And after he raised himself from the dead, came and provided 40 days of confirmation to the people who knew him best that he was, in fact, the same person that had died, and that he had actually been dead, and that he was actually resurrected. And all of that proof and evidence has vanished. Instead of providing any of that proof of evidence, instead of providing descriptions of those things, instead of providing the actual data, instead of doing it again, instead of showing up today, instead of walking in here right now and doing it for every one of us, instead, it's a sentence. Jesus spent 40 days with them, proving that he was alive. That is the very definition of a con job. They are building your confidence. At the beginning of Luke, the same author, who, by the way, we have no idea who it is.
Yeah, it's not even Jesus spent 40 days proving it to me. It's someone telling you. It's basically 40 days worth of hearsay.
Yes, it's Jesus spent time. And the beginning of Luke is the same thing. What they have written agrees with what we learned from the people who saw those events from the beginning. That's verse 2. What they have written, the people who wrote about Jesus, agree with what we learned from the people who saw the events from the beginning. This isn't an eyewitness account. It's not by somebody you know, but we need to build up confidence in it. So what did we do? Well, we gave it the name of Luke, who we're going to claim was an associate of Paul. And it probably was, maybe they picked somebody, real, whatever, but it's all confidence. It's not, here's an anonymous account that tells the story of what they heard from other people. That's the fucking truth. Instead,
Yeah.
it's, here's an account that we'll say was from this person who was a friend of this person who knew these people, and they were there, and they were there from the beginning, and they took careful notes, and they wrote it just for you, Theophilus, beloved of God. Christianity is absolutely a con artist, and let's see if any of the callers can prove otherwise. We've got several theists on hold, and I don't see any reason to keep them on hold any longer. Let's see. Michael's a theist from Florida. Pronouns are he, him. Something about the origins of humanity. There's evidence for God and Adam and Eve. Hey, Michael, how are you?
Doing good. How are you? You hear me?
Amped up.
Good. Yeah, so my argument is if there is an effect in the origins of humanity, and there has to be a cause, and the first cause has to be an uncaused cause. So I would think that it's self-evident that there is a creation of humanity, there has to be a creator.
Wow. Okay, so it's interesting that you're focusing on humanity.
I'm going to get a drink. I'll be right back.
Sure. So you could have made this argument about everything, right? You could have said, if you're going to make an uncaused cause argument, it's interesting to me that you would focus on humanity, which is just a very, very small slice of the reality that we have, right? You could have spoken about mountains or monkeys or elephants or the planet or the solar system or the whole universe. What made you choose specifically humanity?
Well, because humans are rational, moral, I believe, beings that are able to conceptualize mountains. Mountains have substance, right, but not subject.
Okay, so you prefer to localize the conversation on Homo sapiens. This is the topic that you want explained, and your claim is that Homo sapiens couldn't exist without an uncaused cause, and why have you ruled out just that there are natural processes that, by the way, we understand really, really well, that could have led to the existence of Homo sapiens? By what means have you ruled that out?
That would take faith. That would take faith because we've never observed a natural process creating a human from nothing. Nothing. It would be scientifically impossible to create a human out of nothing.
But we've never directly observed, tectonic plates making a mountain, because it takes, many hundreds of thousands of years often, but we understand that it happens. It's not the criterion for accepting something isn't necessarily what.
So you made a knowledge claim that it takes hundreds of thousands of years, but have we seen mountains made in hundreds of thousands of years?
No, but we understand the mechanism by which it happens. And so even though we can't watch it happen, because weirdly enough, a human lifespan is less than a century normally. And so no human being is able to be around for hundreds of thousands of years to watch tectonic plates make mountains, or tectonic movement make mountains. But we're still able to understand the processes by which it happens, even though we can't directly see it. So the mechanisms that have led to Homo sapiens are pretty well understood. Are you aware of this?
Let's go back to the mountains. Your presupposition that the mountains were created by the tectonic plates, they could have also been created from the fault lines in the great deep being opened and God flooding the whole ancient pre-Diluvian world and changing the whole typography of the world. So you're presuming
they could have been, but if that had happened, there would be evidence of it, and there isn't. There is no evidence of that. If that event had happened.
You just asserted that it could have happened by God. How did you determine that God is a candidate How did you determine that God is a candidate explanation for this at all?
Well, we have evidence of the flood all around the world. We have fossils. No. We have trees that are buried under settlement. It changed the whole ancient world.
Michael,
that we know now.
Michael, I asked how you concluded that God is a candidate explanation, and you said, well, we have evidence for flood. Even if we had evidence for flood, my question was, why do you get to consider God a candidate explanation?
Well, my epistemology is the Bible, and I believe that the objective standard would be the Scripture.
And mine's not. So you need to demonstrate the reliability of your epistemology before I'll accept it.
Okay. And let's just remember that your epistemology comes from a book with talking donkeys. So let's just let that lie where it does.
That also gets the order of events wrong in Genesis.
Yeah.
Well, what order? Well, hold on. You're making many knowledge claims. And first of all, I would say that there's no such thing as a contradiction unless there's objective truth. It's just subjectively something conceptualized by you. And at the end of the day, the 2 plus 2 can only be 4.
Can we all agree that Michael is not an honest interlocutor who is not actually interested in having a discussion, but has instead come in with a script and wants to avoid any responsibility to defend his belief, and instead wants to pretend that somehow we've made knowledge claims without objective truth? I have no problem with the notion that there is a reality, and I'm the one that's pointing to it. My reality does not include anything supernatural because there's not evidence for the supernatural. And my reality does not begin with the Bible. It evaluates the Bible to see if the Bible is consistent with the facts of reality. And if the Bible says that the earth existed prior to the sun, that is debunked by the actual empirical evidence that we can detect and observe. And so already in the first few verses of the Bible,
it doesn't say that. It says that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void. The Spirit of God rested over the face of the deep. And that God said, let there be light. But it says he created the sun on the 4th day. And the light was the Lord God Almighty. For
I'm sorry.
The Lord is light.
I'm sorry, Michael. Michael.
Yes.
According to the Bible, God created the heavens and the earth first, and then created the sun on the 4th day, right? Which means the earth I'm sorry. So the earth existed before the sun, right?
Correct.
No, the Bible says the earth existed before the sun, but science and the facts of reality show that the sun existed before the earth.
Well, hold on. Where does science prove that?
Oh, I'm sorry. You should probably go take a science course, because the dating the dating methods that show that the Earth is about 4.5 billion years old, whereas the universe is 13.5 billion years old, and the sun is older. I'm sorry. I don't know why you're interrupting me. You asked me. See, all right. Here's the thing. I'm going to stop now, because I've talked to Michael before.
Carbon dating.
Michael.
You've never talked to me. This is my first time ever calling, Matt.
Michael, you're a liar.
I promise I've never called. I would not lie to you.
Okay, you are a liar, Michael. No, Michael, I've had this exact conversation with you before. That you're a liar.
I promise I've never talked to you, Matt.
I don't care if you promise you're a liar. Liars can promise.
Of science.
Here, I'm going to mute you, because liars can promise all they want. We've done this before. At a minimum, I'll retract that. At a minimum, maybe I heard you run this exact same script on John the other day, or maybe you tried to run this exact same script on Justin the other day. It all runs together after a while. So I will retract the fact that I claimed that you have called me before. Maybe you haven't. Maybe I listened to you call into, it doesn't show this here. So here, in any case, I'm going to stand by the fact that you are not an honest interlocutor, and that you are actually starting with, this is really easy, Michael. Your epistemology begins with the Bible must be true. And if anything says that the Bible is not true, or anything disagrees with the Bible, it must be wrong, even if you don't know how. And that's fine. It's not smart. It's not wise. It's not accurate. It's not reasonable, but it's fine. You can do that. But the reality is that when you look at what science, the universe that science described with its age and with its order of events, the order of event of things in the Bible are wrong. And not just whether the earth came before the sun. That's a fact. The sun, we know how planets some of the ways that they can form, including from accretion disk from sun. But we're able to actually date things. I think it's telling that when I objected to the fact that it gets the Earth-Sun order wrong, you talked about light. I didn't mention light at all. The word light didn't come out of there. I have no problem at all with there being light before the sun. I'm not even tying light to the sun. Not all light comes from the sun. But instead of listening, instead of engaging in an honest conversation, instead of saying, oh, they just challenged something, now it's my turn to actually defend it, you did what every weak-minded creationist does. Instead of defending your belief, you just attacked somebody else's. Oh, well, how do they know that? And then when I'm literally here, calmly telling you how they know that, and I'm not a scientist, I should have just told you, hey, you can go look it up. But as I'm sitting here literally telling you, here's how they know that, you're so absolutely terrified that you decide to interrupt and start challenging the very foundations of science and reason. It's an embarrassingly predictable and tired creationist tactic. So let me pull you back off hold. I will retract and apologize the claim that you definitely called me, because you might be right. I might have heard you run this exact same dishonest as fuck script on some of my friends. And for that, I'm genuinely sorry. It'd be nice if you'd apologize for being dishonest in conversation, and instead of actually defending with evidence. I know you can't do it. I guess that's difficult, because I was going to say, instead, it'd be nice if you defend it with evidence. But if your epistemology begins and ends with the Bible, you don't have any evidence. You have a story. So again, Michael, I'm sorry. I gave you too much credit there. You're not going to be able to provide evidence. And that's why you lash out and just pretend like everybody else is on some shakier ground than you, when in fact, all of the scientific disciplines form a concerted network of data, an interconnected web. When we talk about things like radiometric dating, it's not just carbon dating. Carbon dating has a limit. You have radiometric dating in a number of different, there's potassium, argon, and everything else, and they overlap. And then they overlap with other dating methods like tree rings. All of these methods come together to create a spectrum analysis of parts of what we can date in the universe. So here's my simple question. Let's just set all the rest of that aside. Does your epistemology have anything at all that is measurable and consistent and independently verifiable and subject to peer review as radiometric dating? Yes or no? And then you can tell me all about it.
Am I off? Am I able to speak?
Yes.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Humanity. Yeah, so humanity, that was my original statement, is proof of God. And the invisible...
That's not what I asked you. What question did I ask you, Michael? Michael, what question did I ask you?
Yeah, I would tell you humanity
Michael, what question did I ask you?
You never gave me a chance to even defend my original
Michael, what
statement.
question did I ask you?
You guys talked about mountains.
Michael, what question did I ask you? Michael, what question did I ask
measurable? You asked me a bunch of questions in multiple questions.
Okay, I'm going to mute you again. We're going to do this really easily. Does your epistemology have a mechanism that is consistently reliable and subject to peer review and measurable in the way that radiometric dating is for dating things? Go ahead.
No.
Okay.
I don't even know what that means.
I know you don't know what that means, and thank you.
Yeah.
John?
Shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically, we've got the entire world's worth of scientific knowledge hard won over centuries by people in their hundreds of thousands diligently working scrupulously to advance human knowledge and build knowledge production, cooperating, sharing data, checking each other's work, trying to disprove it, showing where the fault lines are, showing where the weaknesses are, constant self-criticism and peer criticism all the time to carefully build an edifice of human understanding and knowledge. And you just ignore all of it in favor of a storybook. That's absolutely asinine.
My question for you is that how could humanity exist if we are obviously designed? Okay, if you study human,
we're not obviously designed.
We are not obviously designed.
So where did the RNA and DNA come into place at the same time?
The principles by which humanity exists can be found in children's science textbooks, Michael.
But he's never read children's science textbooks, or he'd know about radiometric dating.
You would say the human body is not designed. Have you seen the marvel of the human body? I mean, it's made, the eyeball in itself is an engineering marvel.
Yeah. So, Michael,
you think an eyeball can be evolved? That is insanity. If I told you my car, it would just showed out of nowhere, you would think I was crazy.
I'm thinking Poe's law. I'm thinking Poe's law right now.
I don't believe that Michael's for real.
Mean, that is insane.
And I'll tell you, Michael, listen to me.
I'm a builder.
Michael, listen to me.
I build buildings.
Michael, will you listen to me?
The builder that built the building did not get built?
Michael, will you listen to me? I tell you what, I'm going to force you to listen to me because that's the mood I'm in. So sit down, be quiet. We recognize design not by its complexity or how marvelous we think it is or how clueless we are about how it came about. That's ignorance. You don't begin with ignorance and just say, "Ooh, it must be designed." We recognize design by the hallmarks of design and by contrasting it with that which occurs naturally. Not the complexity, it's actually simplicity and efficiency. That are the hallmarks. Well, efficiency is also a hallmark of how nature does things because nature's lazy. You know, water seeks its own level. Ooh, a flat earther's going to call me. The reason that self-replicating molecules get used over and over and over again is because nothing's happening other than change, and the changes that are able to persist in the environment do so. And they, if they're heritable, get passed on. I breed animals. I breed them for specific morphs and variety. I work with 22 species of snakes. I can tell you all about, not all about, but pick this colloquially, just kind of off the cuff. I could give you hours and hours of lectures about the genetics of snakes and reptiles just broadly, and how parthenogenesis occurs frequently. I have snakes in my collection that are the result of parthenogenesis. That's reproduction without sex in a species that normally reproduces by sex. When I want to make snake babies, I put a mommy snake baby and a daddy snake baby together, and then snakes have a hemipenis, so they have this split penis, and back there at the cloaca, where everything comes out, including that, they have some spurs, which are the remnants of legs from their ancient ancestors, and they can still move them a little bit. Now, it seems to me that, is it more likely that there's a god that cursed them to walk on their belly, or that somebody saw a snake skeleton and said, why do they have those little useless legs? Hey, let's make a story about it. I know which one I think is more likely, but let me get back to my science. We understand a little bit about genetics. Heritable and non-heritable traits, or traits that we can't identify as heritable. There's dominant, incomplete dominant, there's recessive traits, and there's polygenic traits. The eye has demonstrably evolved many different times in many different ways. The eye of mollusks are different from our eye. Whether or not there's a concentric set of muscles that you can contract like this, or whether there's one that is more like a fist thing. And the only thing you need for an eye are some cells that are sensitive to light. And if they're just flat and sensitive to light, that doesn't tell you what direction light's coming. But as soon as they're to cave in a little bit and you get a little cup Now all of a sudden you can tell where more light's hitting and more light's not. And if you continue cupping like that, yes, we have a really good understanding of how eyes have evolved and the various different types. Does that mean we know everything about it? No. But there's no justification for thinking that there's anything beyond nature. It was nice of you to acknowledge that your epistemology doesn't have anything that's measurable or testable in order to date things. And as John was pointing out, you seem incredibly comfortable taking your monumental admitted ignorance of, I don't know how any of this works, I don't know what those words means, I don't know how to measure this, and saying all of those experts who've spent their lifetime and countless lifetimes before them studying reality to try to find the right answers have come up with explanations that are the cornerstones of biology, which, by the way, are the same science that leads to life-saving medicine for you. The same process of science is what allows you to call in from your cell phone from Florida. Hi, Florida man. Welcome. You're calling in because of the very science that you don't understand and you feel incredibly comfortable rejecting. It should be, not majorly, it should be a little source of embarrassment for you to be here publicly rejecting science that you don't understand and admitting that you don't have anything better and coming up with the most popular, common, trite, cartoonish apologist. 20 some odd years ago when I got started with this, Ray Comfort was running around going, a builder needs a building. Oh, sorry, a building needs a builder. A painting has a painter. You know that. Yeah, we know that paintings have painters because we have all of the evidence pointing to painters and no evidence of paintings occurring naturally. We know that buildings have builders, and let's be honest, architects in addition to builders, because all of the evidence supports that. You can directly observe it, and no evidence supports buildings popping up in nature. But you know what does pop up in nature? Living things, natural things. How did the first self-replicating RNA molecules occur? We don't know yet. If you want to claim that God created the first RNA molecules, cool. That's a claim. Now, how can we test that claim? Here, let me put it on the screen. Just make sure here. How can we test your claim that God created life? And I'm going to put this up there, and you need to be sure you're aware that it is not a satisfactory answer to object to a non-answer somewhere else. At no point in the history of the universe has any actual answer been demonstrated by just saying, you can't prove me wrong, well, you don't have a better answer. That's not how reason works. That's not how evidence works. That's not how any of this works. So here's the question. How can we test your claim that God created life?
Well, first of all, you made a false assumption by saying that science, obviously we're talking.
Okay, I'm going to have to mute you. You see, you clearly weren't listening. And this is way too much fun for me. Thank you, by the way, for fixing my Zen. When I say, how can we test your claim that God created life? There's no way to test your claim that begins with an objection to anything I've ever said in my entire life. I am irrelevant. Please, I know you're calling into the show. I know it's my show. But you need to figure out right off the bat, I'm not relevant. Nothing I've ever said is relevant to whether or not you have a test method to confirm your claim that God created life. So here we go. How can we test? Michael's calling in from Florida. He's not going to talk about anything else because he actually understands what I said. He's not actually just here to be a contrarian and object to everything that he doesn't understand or know. So Michael's going to is going to give us an explanation for how we can test his claim that God created life. Michael, the floor is yours.
Time, space, force, matter. In the beginning, time, God, force, created the heavens and the earth, space and matter. There you go.
Oh dear.
Cool. John, that's not a test. That's a claim.
Yeah. Yep. Who would have thought that rather
that's
than
also
actually
a claim.
answering the question, that we would just get a list of more claims, also unanswered and undemonstrated. Michael, this is why people don't believe this stuff. Because in normal everyday life, if somebody makes a statement and then somebody else says to them, how can you know that that statement's true? The normal response is not to just make other statements, it's to actually be responsive to what the person's asked and say, well, the reason I know this is true and the evidence for this is whatever it might be. And really, it's not a difficult question. How can we test your claim that God created life? Now, the problem is, what you may not realize is there's something clever built into this question, because the answer that you're going to end up with is that it's not testable and that it's not falsifiable either. Are you familiar with falsifiability as a concept?
Creation is a divine miracle. You can't prove it.
Yeah, that's delightful.
God
that's
was the only one there.
Are you? That's delightful. Are you familiar with falsifiability as a concept?
Yeah, there's no way to falsify it.
Right. So something that's not falsifiable, some people make the mistake of thinking that means it's strong. It actually means it's worthless. Absolutely worthless. If you can't elucidate what would make it definitely not true, if you can't describe, if we saw this, then I would know that this idea were not true. And if you can't explain a mechanism by which we could, in principle, disprove the claim you're making, then the claim is valueless. Because anyone can make unfalsifiable claims, and we can't check between them, can we? It's what you're doing now.
You're claiming evolution and natural processes.
Don't worry about what we're claiming. We've already taken our claims off the table.
The law of entropy disproves that.
Yeah. For the sake of the argument, we've already taken our claims.
We're devolving. We're breaking down. We're getting worse. We're dying.
That's charming. That's charming.
We're not evolving. We're devolving.
Michael, focus up. Focus up. We've taken our beliefs off the table. We've already granted that we're not worried about our beliefs. You have to evidence your beliefs. You're the one making a claim that you understand the origins of life.
It's absurd.
No, well, here's the newsflash.
Be a creation without a creator.
There isn't just one country. There are many.
It's absurd.
So can you evidence your claim or not?
Arguing in the Twilight Zone. There cannot be a creation without a creator.
Michael, calm down and take a breath. Calm down and take a breath. Are you able to evidence your claim or not? Because so far you're doing the exact same thing that Matt asked you explicitly not to do.
You are the evidence that we are arguing.
Which is just shoot down other people's explanations. We understand that you're scientifically illiterate. That's fine. We've got that. Don't worry about what anyone else believes. Give us the evidence for your belief.
I didn't claim to be a scientist. I just claim to be a man with a Bible that believes that Jesus Christ is the Savior of the world, and that you're going to meet him one day, and there'll be no arguing on that day.
That's lovely, but you won't be able to provide evidence for that claim either. So coming back to the first claim that you've been unable to substantiate, are you giving up on that one now?
Well, like, the argument would be absurd. There can't be origins of humanity apart from a creator. It's impossible.
Actually, the argument would be absurd is the first true thing you've said since you started the call.
Okay. What would that be, John?
Yeah. That your argument is absurd.
So how could you even know you're talking to me if you're just a natural process? There's no even reason to come and to rationalize if there's no such thing as truth.
Oh dear. Where do you go from here?
I mean,
this is like whack-a-mole, isn't it?
He's confused. He's confused the fact. Hang on, Michael. I'm trying to help you here. He's confused the fact that you said his argument would be absurd with, therefore, all of reality is absurd, because he's bought into this notion that there can be nothing of sense unless there is a God. And he doesn't feel any need to prove that because he's bought into the notion that it's just absurd without it. But it's not. There's no requirement for there to be a God for reality to make sense.
We've basically given up on creationism and shifted to kind of Timu Presup now. Is that the idea?
No, I mean, I think that there's no ability of intelligibility without there being a rational God. You know, you have no ability to even rationalize, because how can you trust even what you think?
I'm sorry,
or what
John,
you believe?
I don't have an interest in rationalizing, because I know the difference between rationalization and being rational, but you don't.
And what would that be? What would that definition be?
I'm sorry. You should just go look up a dictionary, because being rational means you're consistent with rationality. Rationalizing is making excuses that are giving the emulation of rational when they aren't. You can't even get past the basics of English language here.
Well, I would tell you that ultimately that.
Yeah, I know what you tell me, Michael. You tell me you're a man with a Bible who believes. You're telling me you're a man with a Bible that believes. I have a Bible. I have lots of Bibles. I've studied it. I probably know it better than you do, as does John, and as does most of the rest of these people that you're going to be talking to, as you continue to call around to show how little you know about anything else. It's when you get beyond just having a Bible, where you can only regurgitate the simple things that you've been taught that make sense. When you branch out beyond that and you actually start studying English, philosophy, history, science, then you'll understand how you're not dumb. You're not a bad person, but you are monumentally wrong, and embarrassingly so, because you are dismissing things while admitting you don't have a clue what you're talking about. And every sentence out of your mouth, you're making a new mistake that shows just how clueless you are. But you don't have to. Michael, you don't have to call into these shows and say this stuff. I know it. I know. You're not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, for it's the power to salvation. I get it. You are here. You are doing. You are
salvation. I thought you knew more about the Bible. For the Jew first, then for the Gentile. The righteousness.
I'm sorry that I didn't keep going on with your scripture, but I'm the one that knew what the Bible said in Genesis and countless other things.
For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth and unrighteousness.
Prove that
what may be known of God is made manifest in them, for God has shown it to them.
Prove that it's true.
The invisible attributes of God are clearly seen through the things that have been made, even His eternal power. And God has, so you're without excuse.
I know I'm without excuse. I know I'm without excuse. Yes, thank you, Michael, for preaching.
Your imagination,
thank you for your virtue signaling. Michael, you are amazing. Lord Jesus, thank you so much for sending Michael to us today to show his own ignorance, put his own ignorance on parade, so that he can preach to us the power of your word, the laughable, weak-ass, vapid power of your words. Thank you so much. Thank you, my Lord.
Of the God of the Bible, it makes you fearful. It makes you fearful.
It doesn't make me fearful, Michael.
Yes, you are.
I'm not
You're
scared.
Afraid to meet the God I serve, because just like a criminal doesn't want
to
find a cop.
I'm not afraid of your God. I'm not afraid of you or your God. I don't think your God could give me so much as a hangnail.
One day when you meet him, it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God.
Come on with the threats, Michael.
He's these threats are wonderful. I care that you would come to your senses.
You're calling me afraid, and you're saying one day I'm going to meet him.
I mean, he's the God.
What's he waiting for? What is your weak ass little God waiting for?
What is he waiting for?
You say one of these days I'm going to meet him. Why can't I meet him now?
He's long suffering,
why is your God a pussy?
That any should perish.
Why is your God a pussy?
Because he wants you to repent.
Why is your God a pussy?
He wants you to come to your senses.
The correct response is that a pussy isn't a bad thing and it's not a weak thing.
No,
those things can take a pounding. Betty White pointed that out. I was setting you up for the best joke you could have possibly made. But you don't understand anything, Michael. You don't understand a thing.
1,000 years. He's not.
A day with the Lord is like 1,000 years. A day talking to you is like 1,000 years.
One day.
He's
not slack concerning his promises. Some man counts slackness, but he's long-suffering, not willing
to hilarious how you're accusing me of being afraid while you crash out in the most epic
fashion. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, and the heavens will pass away with a great noise.
Creating a magic spell.
Well, I'm just telling you the truth.
No, you're not telling me the truth. You're just regurgitating your fan fiction.
I believe it with all my heart. I
don't doubt that.
And
I don't doubt that
and
somebody has poisoned your mind.
You misquote
somebody has crippled your brain and your heart.
I didn't grow up
and
in a
you believe it
family.
with all your heart. I know that you believe it.
God came into my life 7 years ago and saved my soul.
God didn't come into your life. God hasn't done a thing. Prove it.
Yes, He has. Jesus Christ.
Prove God came into your life.
The risen Christ. Well,
Prove
I'll
God
tell
came
you
into your life.
with a matter of fact,
Prove
subjectively,
God
I
came
can
into your
explain
life.
to you my testimony
Yeah,
that
I don't need
my
your
whole
testimony.
life,
I need your proof, and you don't know what proof is, and you make no attempts.
the proof
Keep
is
crashing
that
out,
I'm no
Michael.
longer a slave to sin. My proof is that
You
I'm no
are a
longer
slave to sin. You are a slave to
No,
sin.
I'm
You're a
not.
slave to
No, I'm
lying.
not.
You're a slave to You're a slave to
You false
dishonest
accuse
argument.
like your
You're a
father,
slave
the
to
devil. You're of your father,
misrepresentation.
the devil,
You
and
are a
you're going to do the
slave.
works
You
of
are
your
a
father.
slave to the
And
prison
you've
that you've
been blinded
created
by your
in order to
sin,
present
and
yourself from
you've been
dealing with
blinded by your
reality.
sin, and you've been blinded by your father. And
Sin
who is the
isn't a
God of
real
this
thing.
world?
I'm not blinded by a sin.
Yes,
I
it
know
is.
exactly what I do that you
Yes,
think
it
is
is.
sinful. What I don't know is what I do that, or care
I
what
don't
I
know
do that
nothing
God
about
thinks
you.
is sinful.
I don't know nothing
Sorry,
about
what?
you. I'm just saying that you're lying and making
I didn't.
slander against me.
No. I
And
didn't
that's the
say you knew
devil.
anything about me. Although you're the one that
Yeah.
just said that I'm here as a slave to my sin. I don't
I said
accept the
I'm no
concept of.
longer a slave to my sin.
But you said
I'm
I
no longer
was,
a
right?
slave. That I was a slave to sin.
Did you
and
say
the
that
Son
I
of
was a
God
slave
set
to
me
my
free.
sin? Did you say that I was a slave to my
you
sin?
said prove to me. No, you said prove to me that God has come into your life, and I said I'm no longer a slave to my sin. Jesus Christ has set me free. That's proof.
Yeah.
If you want to
is this what
talk
freedom,
to the people
freedom
in my
looks
life,
like? Michael, it's so sad to hear someone 38 years old who's spent so much time memorizing this gibberish mumbo jumbo from this silly book and is so scientifically illiterate. It's tragic to hear it. We wonder sometimes
you can't observe science apart from God.
This is
science is in observing laws, and God is the lawgiver. So
this is idiocracy
God
playing
is the
out
judge
before our very eyes. It's tragic to see it.
So
really tragic.
So it's easy for you to attack on a book that you don't understand. You guys don't. You misquote.
Oh no, I understand the book.
So what is the doctrine of the Trinity then? Give me an example.
The Trinity is a nonsensical. The Trinity is a nonsensical doctrine.
Oh, dear.
Okay, what is the doctrine?
That the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost are all three in one and separate and unique. It is a logical contradiction, which demonstrates that God does not exist.
Distinct.
Because contradictions can't exist.
If you were to study the nature of the majestic God, would you suppose that he would be something different than anything in creation, and that would not be able to be conceptualized by the finite brain?
We could start by being coherent. We could start by being not contradictory.
Yeah.
Well, your definition of coherent
and
not definition or not contradictory would be something based not in Holy Scripture. So you become the standard. And you
I don't know.
Yourself up
How
as
do you
God.
identify what's Holy Scripture and what's not?
Well, I would tell you that it's self-authenticating. The Bible is.
Oh, is it self-evident? Because maybe Michael could tell us what self-evident means.
Yeah.
No, it's self-authenticating. Well, I'll give you one word: the nation of Israel. Hitler.
That's not one word.
The Jews, though.
That's not one word.
That's
not one word.
Well, I say the Jews are Jews.
That's not one. That's still two words.
One Jews. Biblical prophecy that God promised that though there be 1,000 Hitlers, that God would prove that he
when did
is
God
the God
mention Hitler, Michael?
Of the Bible.
When did God mention Hitler?
Well, Hitler tried. Well,
when did God mention Hitler?
God promised.
When did God mention Hitler?
Isaiah.
When did God mention Hitler? When did God mention Hitler? When? No, I'm not holding on. When did God mention Hitler, Michael? You're a liar. You're a liar. No God has ever mentioned anything, let alone a Hitler.
There's been men like Hitler.
No, you said when God mentioned Hitler, and I'm asking you, you're a liar. I'm sorry, Michael, but I don't do well with liars. And now you're just lying and saying that God mentioned Hitler. When we have no, here I'm going to mute you. I think you need to go see some professional help. You're now flailing about how God mentioned Hitler. First of all, you believe the Bible. You're not going to get to speak again. You might as well hang up. But if you want to stay on so that you can hear it more clearly, I understand. You believe in the God of the Bible, but the God of the Bible doesn't mention Hitler ever. So when you say that, you're a liar. That's part of your crash out. All of this is your defense. And all of it's unnecessary. Because all John and I did was ask you to defend stuff. And you did great early on when you acknowledged that you didn't have any way to demonstrate this. You didn't have evidence for it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what somebody did to you. I'm sorry for the failings of the education system. And I'm sorry for the indoctrination into religion. I'm sorry for whatever disconnect is happening between you and reality, so that you're talking about, what would you expect when you explore the one true majestic divine God? I don't think there is a majestic divine God. There's no evidence for one. I don't even know what divine means. I know how it's used, but I don't see any reason to think there's anything that's actually divine. I mean, all we were doing was trying to tell you what science says and how your book contradicts it. And you did good in admitting that you don't know what you're talking about, but then you stepped it up and you went to essentially, I don't understand this. I don't know what these words mean. I don't know anything about the science, but I know it's wrong. That is the very definition of delusion. That is the very definition of irrational. And I know you don't believe me, Michael, but I know you're sitting there right now going, it's not irrational if you're in line with the mind of God. I know you're thinking that. You've said very similar to that before. I hope you get some help. Genuinely. It is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking watching somebody so deep in delusion and denial that we cannot even talk about how to investigate reality. You're so divorced from reality, you have no ability to engage on any sort of sensible level. Here's what the question above my head right now: how can we test your claim that God created life? If you have an untestable claim, which you do, then the answer is we can't test it. And then the follow-up question would be, then why do you believe it? How can it possibly be rational? We're back to what we had in the previous call. How do you demonstrate that your position is reasonable? Every one of these calls, and I appreciate the fact that you're sincere. You're not a troll. And that's why it breaks my heart, and I hope you get some help. And for the person in chat who was like, oh, this needs to stop, I can't listen to this, I had to mute it, can't listen to the preaching. I understand that preaching like that, and I'll get on to the other callers here in just a second. I have to do this. Recovering from Religion is an organization we work with and support. It is dear to my heart. And I know that I'm the weird one. I know that I walked down the aisle at the age of 5 and I was active in the church. I never had a bad moment in the church. Nobody ever turned on me. I never had to explain anything. None of it was. I just tried to prove it was true and couldn't. I never had a falling out. I was never abused in the church, but I have friends who were. I don't feel trauma tied to sermons, but I know people who do. Religious trauma syndrome, despite not being in the DSM, is, as far as I'm concerned, a real thing that should be in the DSM at some point, in some sense, because I've dealt with and interacted with too many people who have suffered trauma at the hands of well-intentioned. I'm not talking about Falwell. I'm talking about the average preacher, the average Michael. Michael's like preachers out there, except that he's not quite megalomaniacal enough to be out there dictating to other people his sermon. We're like a trial balloon for his sermon. And so for the person out there that I was like, you need to turn this off and listen, but it's essential. I'm sorry that actually had to happen, but it was essential. Not every crash out is just, oh, I got owned. This is trauma. It's triggering to people in chat. It's mildly triggering to me, and I didn't even go through that. So please, if you're struggling with stuff like that, reach out to Recovering from Religion, recoveringfromreligion.org. And if you're not, be aware that somebody is. Because I'll do another donation for that, just because it's heartbreaking, and that's as much of a kind of a headbutting thing as I could imagine having without actually being angry. But watch what happened. Oh, you're scared. No. I'm embarrassed.
Projection.
And I'm sad.
That was projection as well. There's a reason why he said that. It was heartbreaking because I was just thinking, while he was rattling off all this Bible stuff, 38 years old, how much time has he spent learning this nonsense that he could have been learning about reality, learning about the beauty of nature, learning about the majesty of science and the things we actually know about reality that have a real value, rather than these ridiculous stories that now occupy all the available space in his mind. That is a real tragedy, and I really feel for Michael.
I'm not mad. I'm not angry. I'm not scared. I want to cry at watching the damage religion does to my, and none of it has to happen. There's nothing essential even about Christianity that requires you to be like that. But that's what it does to some people. We have 2 more calls. I'm going to apologize in advance. This is going to be a complete change of tone. So everybody,
fasten seatbelts.
Take a breath.
For a change of direction.
I am not going to prejudge this, but it's definitely a change of tone. Here we go. So Chris is calling from somewhere in the United States. Pronouns are him. Chris is a theist who claims to be able to prove through electronic teleportation that there is a thinking conscious being exists, and it will be peer-reviewed and published in like 4 years. And his agenda is to get certain pieces of information out. It will start sounding crazy, but he can back it up. Also, the basis of Gnosticism in Mary. I want the truth of her historically to hit. Chris, I'm going to apologize to you in advance. If this is a prank call, I am definitely not in the mood, and you will absolutely get me to crash out if that's your goal. Because you're already acknowledging this is going to start sounding crazy. Can I ask one question before we start?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, go ahead. Ask your question.
If it's going to be peer-reviewed in 4 years, why wouldn't you?
She did the best she absolutely could because I gave her a ton of information.
I guess I can't ask a question before we start. Go ahead and start.
Well, I mean, go ahead. Ask your peer review question. Let's start there. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So it's actually electron tunneling, but that's the semantic. And by the way, to get into this, also, I need to preface this, by the way. I am a scientist for fun. That is not going to make any sense at all. I have access to a lab that is a nationally renowned university. We could talk about that. It's not important. I can prove it. Matter of fact, I'm going to make a bunch of claims that are like just going to sound nuts. That's the thing. That's why it was so hard for her to write the notes, because like this is so insane. I do have an agenda. This is not a prank call. And we are going to talk about. I'll actually back everything up. I listened to that entire last call. Your callers are fucking idiots, and that's probably by design, and that's cool. And unfortunately for us, yes, I can actually prove to some probable scientific degree. Yep.
I don't need you to comment on the other calls, but why would you say that's probably by design? What do you mean?
I think, and I would do this too, because we have a very similar background when it comes to Christianity in general, because we're both smart, thoughtful people that when we were young,
Chris, I just need you to answer my question. What did you mean when you said, I think this is by design?
I think that for the show to work, you probably need people who are.
Chris, are you suggesting that we intentionally seek out callers like that as preferable, that we're the ones designing that?
I am honestly not sure. I don't know, actually. I'm saying
Chris,
I don't know. Yeah.
What did you mean? Because when I asked you what you meant by saying it was by design, you started talking about what the show needed. And so I'm trying to find out, was that an attack on our character? Do you think that we are intentionally seeking out the lunatics or the fucking nut jobs or whatever you called them for clicks and...
No, I think, I mean,
what did you mean?
I do think that it is probably, I do think that it is probably...
Chris, I swear to the Zen that is holding me together right now, if you don't answer my fucking question about what you meant, I'm not going to listen to another word you say, because if you can't explain what you mean right there, why on earth would I think you're going to be able to explain your other stuff?
All right. So the direct question is, do I think that bringing on idiots to talk about Christianity?
No,
because
the direct question is, what did you mean when you said you thought calls like that were by design?
I wonder if what I was saying is I was thinking out loud and wondering if those are if most people who believe what that caller believed are just going to be like him, or if it's more like a situation where like there's like 4 or 5 callers and we put him in because that's better for the show. I'll know the answer. I honest to God don't
I'm
know
going to put you back in the queue. I'm going to bring you back. Luthien, can we put up a poll to see how many people believe that that's what Chris meant?
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring Patrick in because I don't believe you, Chris. Sorry, but I don't just trust myself. So let's find out if other people believe that's what you meant. Patrick's calling. Patrick's my buddy who is running NanoCon, and we wanted to do a reminder because NanoCon's coming up the end of this month. It's in Nashville. It's a Nashville Nuns Convention. Patrick, give us the quick rundown while we're doing this poll, please. And hi, how are you?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, thanks for taking the call, and excited that some awesome people are going to be there, including Monty Mader, including Forrest Valkai, including Promise appearing digitally by stream, and yourself. So I'm excited about that.
Awesome. I tried to get extra work done the other day so that I could get ahead of the curve for the magic show, but I have not yet gotten ahead. But I am on targeted pace. I guess the big thing is we just need to let people know where they can go. If you are in the Nashville area, or if you can be in the Nashville area around the first weekend in August, that's July 31st, August 1st, etc. Where can they go to get tickets and see the lineup and find out if this is something they want to go to and come hang out with you and me and all those other people you mentioned?
Yeah, so we're just outside of Nashville and Middle Tennessee, and man, we got people coming from all over the place, the states surrounding, and the website is nanocon, NANOCON, nanocon.rocks, ROCKS, nanocon.rocks.
Awesome.
And you get the whole lineup. Man, it's going to be exciting.
Well, I apologize for making you wait so long. We are already over time, and I need to get Chris back in here. But I wasn't even see. Part of the thing is like Chris is like we're picking this. We just picked the theist, and you were listed as an atheist, so I didn't even read who you were or what you were calling about until just a minute ago. But awesome. I look forward to seeing you, and we will do this again. I'll get some more news and information out next week as we get closer. Thanks, man.
Sounds great, man. Thanks. Bye-bye.
People often wonder, hey, what do you guys do? Why do you get together? What's going on? And religious organizations have a lot of community. And one of the things that we're constantly trying to do is to build communities. This isn't just about, ooh, let me debate. Ooh, let me prove you're right or wrong or make you look foolish or bring in only the dumbest people or the whatever, however it works. We're genuinely building communities. And one of the ways we do that, there haven't been as many conventions and gatherings since COVID, but we're still doing stuff like that. And it's starting to ramp up again. NanoCon is one of my all-time favorites. I'm doing a magic show there. I'm also going to be, interacting with people. I'll be there the whole weekend. And it's wild because the poll says, is that what Christ meant when he said that's probably by design instead of Chris. But all right, let's bring Chris back.
My bad.
It's all right. It's extra funny. Chris, generally people don't believe you, but let's set all that aside. And now I'd like you to tell me, the answer to my question, which is if it's going to be peer reviewed in 4 years, why on earth am I supposed to care about it now?
Well, so I don't think the peer review matters, and I'll explain why. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure that I'm putting my name on it. It doesn't matter. It actually doesn't matter. But I don't even need that to prove.
I just want you to recognize how funny it would be for me to hang up right now, but I'm not going to. Just so you know.
Well, well, anyway, it doesn't matter. All right. So first of all, I mean, I guess the basis of the work starts with the 2022 Nobel Peace Prize. Like, I don't know if your viewers are, or if you're up to speed on what Elaine Aspect, Clauser, Zellinger all did in 2022 about non-locality and how the universe is not locally real. Are you familiar with this, Matt? If not, I can explain it.
I don't need you to. Wow.
I mean, you might need it for the viewers. I don't know. Yeah. This is a real thing. We're going to talk real science. And we're going to talk actual science.
No, we're not. In one sentence, what is it you think this science demonstrates that John and I should care about?
Okay. So the Nobel Peace Prize proves that violating Bell inequalities does prove that the universe is non-local. So the universe itself is non-local. It is not fundamentally a cause and effect real state of anything. That it's a major breakthrough. People don't understand it, even though it was years ago at this point. It's not something that is completely understood. What I did personally is I basically
what did I ask
invented
you?
Why you should care, right? And how this is that not what you asked?
Yeah, I don't think you gave me anything to care about.
We still have absolutely no idea what your actual claim is.
Well, I know, because I have to set it up. My claim is that my claim is that scientifically we can prove, unfortunately, that there is a thinking, conscious, and worse, probably somewhat personal being that literally does micromanage from the quantum level design, which is insane, because again, this will be common in about 4 to 5 years. There are other
Call
things
me
that are
in
going
4
on.
to 5 years. I don't care.
Well, so
everybody out there,
the Nobel Committee awaits you, by the way.
Yeah. Everybody out there who is grateful for that, we're getting ready to read Super Chats, and now would be a good time to show your gratitude for me hanging up on that and telling you to call back in 4 or 5 years with a nice little Super Chat of $5 or more, because we have made it through all of our callers, and here's the thing.
That was the right call. That was painful. That was painful.
Let's assume for a second that in 4 to 5 years, there will be peer-reviewed research that shows that essentially the observer factor, like quantum tunneling, is essentially micromanaged by some sort of actual intelligence outside of what we view as the perceived universe or within its framework or whatever else. Hi, I'm Matt. I'm a skeptic and a humanist and an atheist, but the skeptic and the humanist thing are the part that matters. And for this, it's two things. The skepticism matters because the time to believe something is after it's been demonstrated. And when we're looking at something like this, where there's peer-reviewed research, the time to believe it is after there's peer-reviewed research and considerable discussion and explanation of it, not when random person calls in to tell me what's going to be peer-reviewed in 4 or 5 years, but also that it doesn't really matter and that it's his work and that he might not put his name on it. Cool.
Trust me,
you're
bro.
wonderful. Thank you so much for enlightening our world. We are all better. The humanist in me is what stopped me from the baby talk thing and compassionately shut that down for all of you in chat. For all of you watching this show who are like, this show has already run long, please, please, non-existent God or maybe quantum God, tell me he is not going to let this guy drone on about something that may or may not be published and may or may not say what he thinks it's going to say in 4 to 5 years. Please let the skeptic and the humanist in Matt win out. Well, it did. All right, first of all, I have to say a huge thank you to John for joining us here tonight. Please come back and do a bunch. We got super chats to read, but come back whenever we can. And I'd love to get, Sean on as well, as you know.
Sure.
Although I also need to get some guys on who don't, well, not guys, but people who don't just look like us. Because, I mean, this show is pale as fuck right now. Pale and penisy, probably. Ooh, that's my coffee mug for next year's fundraiser. Just the glasses, pale and penisy. Jimmy, you can't steal that. That's mine. All right. I'm trying to find the super chats. Dun, dun, dun. Boom. I have the queue up. There we go. Let me set them all for 5 and above. And I got them. Wow, there's a bunch of them. Problem is that I don't know what John can see, because normally we take turns reading this. Have you got time to stay and read these?
Of course. Yeah. I'm not in a hurry.
Awesome. Well, let me see what happens here when I send. Hey, there it is. You start.
I can't actually see that.
Oh, if you're in the Zoom call, if you pin the shared screen.
I need to pin the shared one? Yeah, that's it. Okay, and then I'll be able to. Like that. Okay, got it. Okay, so Joshua Everett, thank you for the super chat. We were 1 vote away on the 14th decision from active. I can't read what that means.
Civil War.
Oh, civil war. Sorry, yeah, civil war. If it had gone the other way, it would have thrown almost 1/3 of the residents of the US into nebulous citizenship status. That's horrific.
Yeah. I haven't kept up with everything. Things have been crazy busy lately. If sane people ever get in power again, would you favor adding 18-year term limits to a Supreme Court? Yes. I think 18 years might be too long. I am in huge agreement with my friend Andrew Seidel that we need to unfuck the courts, which is also another great t-shirt. But yeah, term limits, whatever it is that keeps us from perpetuating the problem. I'm on the board of directors for a number of different organizations. And they tend to start for nonprofits kind of simple and small. It's the people who are there, who are doing the work. You're going to be the board. The people who have the time and volunteer, the people with the passion to do it, you're going to be the board. And eventually, as the organization gets bigger and bigger, the boards change. And you'll have elections. And then eventually, you probably won't have elections, at least not at-large elections. So, for example, I'm on the board of directors for American Atheists. It's a national, some would say international organization, but it's American. The board of directors for American Atheists is self-selected. All the board members, when somebody leaves the board, whether they die or resign or removed, whatever, when they leave the board, we get together and we have a committee that does a search for other potential board members, and we interview them and select, and boom, you end up getting a new board member. Well, that works great as long as the members of the board are good people with their eye on the organization. And I'm happy to say that my interaction with American Atheist Board is that it is that. There are other boards I've been on that have shifted to that format, where once the board becomes corrupt, There is no way to fix it because they will only pick other people who are going to allow them with their corruption. There are boards of directors that are out there like that. Don't worry, I'm not going to name you here. But that's what's happened with the way the Congress and our Supreme Court have merged and cooperated to essentially manipulate the system. What you need after that is often revolution. You got to find a way to unfuck the courts and unfuck your boards and all that stuff. And it's not easy. But yeah, I'm in favor of that for Supreme Court, et cetera. Thank you so much for the question.
America, land of the free and home of the brave. Only free to what the Christo-fascists allow, and all the brave have been labeled as terrorists.
Yeah. I'm a terrorist now. It's surprising. Happy Canada Day to my fellow Americans. One day we may be as free as our polite neighbors to the north. I love Canada, and that's why every time I joke about Canada, somebody gets mad and they're like, why do you guys say that about Canada? Oh, I shouldn't have done a voice with that because they have a legitimate play. I'm just playing. Trust me, if it weren't for the fact that I'm still a U.S. citizen, and by the way, a veteran who's sworn to defend the Constitution, that's why I'm not leaving. I have friends who've left, and with good reason. My buddy Ian lives in lives in Ireland now, and by the way, so does Legion Miller. And oh, man, that might not be your last name. Did I screw it up? Anyway, there are people who are now expats. I'm not going to trash. They're not cowards. They're not. You got to look out for your family, and things are terrifying. Problem is, things are terrifying all over the place. I'm terrified of the UK as well, in many different ways, not the least of which is now they have a king that supports homeopathy.
This is true.
And I put a rim shot in there, even though homeopathy is absolutely ridiculous. But I would take a king with homeopathy over what the hell's happened here.
I was going to say, I long for the days when I used to focus my energy on things like that. Yeah.
When that wasn't it so nice when that was the biggest problem we had to do? It's
right.
Like, oh,
fighting
homeopathy.
woo.
Like
yeah.
cures like, ooh, water has memory.
Adam's logic. Who's on first? What's on second? I don't know is on third. Fair.
Fair. That is fair. The Atheist Mechanic, thank you so much. Adam's the kind of person to buy the snake oil and claim it cured cancer, only to find out it was cat pee in a bottle. I have snake oil I could sell, but it doesn't do anything except stink.
Sloan's call, pattern recognition given more credence than it deserves to make baseless predictions on geopolitics and religious experiences. That was wild.
Yeah. It was a strange show. But honestly, overall, I'm really happy, not just because John was here. John's great. But I feel like we got some genuine callers and some that weren't quite as obviously trolly as in the past. At least there was an opportunity to make some good points that might be helpful to somebody. Hey boys, tiny support. Thank you, Venomous. This show has been so cathartic for an atheist trans girl. Ah, and I love your name. And that you're an atheist trans girl who's supporting us and feeling good from what happened here today. But my list of supers keeps scrolling up. Just one more than it should, but I got it.
There is a funny new end-of-world cult simulator game coming out called Join Us. You grow your own cult and try and survive doomsday scenarios. Fair enough.
I played a game called, was it Honey, I Created a Cult or Honey, I Started a Cult? It was an indie game. I streamed a lot on Twitch, and now I'm back to playing Binding of Isaac and EverQuest and chess. Those are my only three right now, but I streamed live the other night on YouTube instead of Twitch, and I'll be doing that more. So like and subscribe to this channel, like and subscribe to my channel. And John, what's your channel where they can go like and subscribe to you?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was at John Cohen Official on YouTube. Thank you, man.
It's well worth doing. John can attest that when you least suspect it, I'll just pop up in chat and start saying shit. And it's probably not always very helpful, but I
It
enjoy
does happen.
listening to you.
Sometimes I miss it, and sometimes I notice it, and then the chat's freaking out because Matt's come in. It's interesting. It's fun. You're welcome anytime, Matt.
They were all like, how's John going to work with Matt? They're so different. And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm trying my Zen motor as close as I can to it. But also, I don't really think we have different temperaments. A default temperament. But I don't really think that what we're doing or the process or the way we're thinking is that different at all. It's just I've done this for 22 years and I'm rubbed raw. When John's done this for 20 years, let's see how many people think he's still the nice guy. Maybe he'll have to bring somebody in to play good cop to his bad cop.
It could happen.
Legally Maud, I hate popular philosophy so much. I love philosophy stuff. It's the Phil Bro stuff that gets tiring.
Yeah, and that's a new thing in the debate space in the last few years. Like we were saying earlier, it didn't used to be that way. So much performative BS in the name of philosophy, which would be laughed out of any philosophy department. Don't let this put you off philosophy, folks. Philosophy is a noble, worthwhile tradition. I had a fantastic philosophy teacher when I was younger. He was an inspiration to me. What these guys are doing is not philosophy. It's pretend philosophy.
Yeah.
Quantum mechanics is mysterious, and I don't get it, but it's true. So my beliefs that are mysterious and I don't even get must also be true. Very well said, Space Barbarian. Very well said.
It is bizarre. And it's like you can watch my eyes roll almost all the way to the back of my head the second somebody stops talking about one thing when they've gotten into that corner, and all of a sudden the word quantum comes out, and I'm just like, no, you fucking didn't. Please tell me you didn't do that. Tim Davidson, I accepted the message from Jesus. He wanted to talk about my auto insurance. Sorry, Matt. John, please explain my bad humor to him.
Tim is a regular who keeps my streams lively. He's awesome. Love you, Tim. So happy to finally see John Cohen on the line. I love your approach to conversations. Thank you, Duskframe. Much appreciated. Thank you so much.
So say we all. $10 from 725 Kelly Bean. Watching John experience Felix is pure entertainment. I like John too much to watch that more than once.
Oh, Bethos, great to see you. Oh, is it already on? Sorry, I will see most of it on record. Fair enough, Bethos. Great to see you, friend.
These are €2. Felix, oh God, no, deliver me from Felix, dear God. I mean, I prayed tonight too. You're not alone.
Felix, set up us the bomb. MD, Matt, all your faith belong to us.
I knew when I said it that I said Felix set us up the bomb. And when I said it, I was like, that's wrong. It's Felix set up us the bomb. For great justice. There you go. All your faith or belong to us is absolutely hilarious. Thanks, Bethos. All your base, your base. Caller should listen to Das Omen 3. Is that Eurodance 1994? I don't know what that is. So I got one reference. I missed the other.
And Tim again, they did talk about the zombies rising. It's in the book of Michael in the thriller chapter. Very good. These things can get a bit earnest sometimes. It's good to have the relief. Thank you, Tim. Tim is
I really want Vincent Price.
Tim is awesome on my streams. Just keeps it coming when things get a little heavy and things get a little dour or a little bit too earnest. Tim is always there to lift things up and put smiles on everyone's faces.
My earbuds were killing me. Now I can hear a little better and my ears are better. I really would like, so for my birthday, Kristen got me a Bible, but it's every word has been replaced with blah. But it is rhythmically the King James. So instead of in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, it's blah, 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 blah. And I went through and I read like the whole side by side of the first chapter of Genesis alongside it, just to make sure that they did it right, verse by verse, like that. It's syllable by syllable. It's rhythmically. It's one of my prized possessions. It sits on my bookshelf, and it's one of the coolest gifts anybody got me.
That is
and
awesome.
So I would love to have Vincent Price read that as if it were a Bible, but of course, Vincent's dead. But I am East D reading about Ernst Thalmann in school, questioning where those stories came from. Enter me, inventions to describe a communist. Same with the Bible. I'm sorry, Bethel, you've lost me there. I'm a dumbass. But thank you.
And again from Bethos, Luke is a great writer, but surely not Luke. I think we can agree with that.
Don't know what his name was. Don't even know if he was the person they say. And neither do they. And that's the killer.
That's the killer.
I need alcohol drink too first, because first cause is not a creator. I didn't go down and get alcohol. I got iced tea because I was parched and getting sleepy, but thanks.
The atheist mechanic, Michael, that which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. I think Hitchens said that. Ditch the Bible and do some real learning. It was heartbreaking to see such a complete waste of a human mind. Tragic.
Yeah, there's a lot of things where, don't get me wrong, I know me and I know my reputation, and I am absolutely on occasion a prick, an asshole, pedantic, arrogant, condescending, short, dispassionate, impatient. I'm also the opposite of those things on other occasions, but it's I'm getting overwhelmed just thinking about that call again. The regular viewers know what's going on. We are so cooked. €2 from Bethos. MD's the GOAT. Oh, thank you. John C. is a calm force in this win-win. Yes. No,
I think you've been pretty calm today, Matt. I think you've been every bit as calm as I have.
Pretty close. I wouldn't say every bit, but no. I can do it, and I continue doing it. But they're right, though. John's welcome back anytime. John can come in here and take over whenever he wants to. But yeah, I definitely want to do more shows.
Bethos again. Thanks, Bethos. We absolutely know Earth formed after the sun. I sign out now, needing to work tomorrow. Have fun. Thanks, Bethos. That's absolutely great. Thank you.
That's very kind. Thank you. PhD Tony Original. $5. Mineral exploration relies on geochronology being reliable and robust beyond radiometric and rhythmites. We have amino acid decay and cosmogenic exposure. Yeah, we have all kinds of stuff that I don't know a thing about. I can only talk about what little bits and pieces I've studied. But the thing is, I know this much. My scientist friends know, I don't know, wait, that much. Michael knows that much, but thinks his knowledge is, oh, I'm not a scientist, but it thinks it dwarfs even what people learned in grade school. And that's not the way it is. It is, yeah. I pull up a Dunning-Kruger chart, I'll put a dot where he is.
He's right there. And isn't it amazing how all these disparate dating methods all happen to make exactly the same have time to give super chat, but I'm on hold with an oncologist looking to argue with medical professionals in a condescending manner. Right. I have the cure. They don't bask in me. Yeah. Right. Very good.
That is exceptionally well played.
Weston
Campbell, I really enjoy calls like Michael's, but at some point you got to join the rest of us in Stupidville and being unable to answer questions. Yes. solution to hard solve system, try giving evidence for your God. I don't know if there's any hope of a solution to the problem of hard solipsism, but this I need a word. I guess pivoting is probably good enough. It's worse than that. It's like a Super Bowl bounce where they're throwing their claim at this wall, and just about the time you're able to actually set it, it just takes off in some other direction completely, like it hit a nodule, and now you don't quantum. Wait, how did quantum get in here? And that's what threw me off.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden the first word for word premise of the Kalam shows up, and I'm like, what do you mean you said that? I thought I feel like I was being played.
Or we got to digging wells and repenting out of the blue as well. There were some wild pivots today. We should have been wearing seatbelts. There we go. The atheist mechanic. It's always telling when theists bring out the threats. That's how you know they have no argument. It's certainly how they display that they've lost the argument.
Yeah, it's something that, and I am sorry. Every time I go back to that call, I'm genuinely overwhelmed. The threats are absolutely an admission, an unknowing admission. I don't know. Is there a word for that that's just escaping me? Maybe a tell? I don't know. But where every accusation is an admission from, for example, the right in U.S. government, it's that way when they're like, oh, you're so scared. No. And the second you told me I'm scared, everything got better. Because you're having to pretend that you know my mind. Something John was talking about, we're better at reading our own mind than you're ever going to be. You have to pretend that you know my psyche and everything else. And all you're really saying is, I believe God, and God knows you better than you do and better than I do. And so since I know God, I know you better than you do because I know the guy who knows you better. Ha ha ha, I win. It is holy mount. It's just wild.
That's exactly what it is. It's leveraging their superhero imaginary friend to give themselves powers. That's all it is. Came in with Michael. Oh, I'm totally convinced now, lol. What's it like having a 20 charisma, Matt?
I don't know. But thanks. The Bible, have you ever read it? Yeah. Have you ever read anything else?
Yeah. It's sorely appropriate there. Evangelicals like Michael ramble nonsense to Luddite constituents in order to get elected. We know this is true. Post Third Reich trials may come to a court near you. Weston Campbell, thank you.
Yeah, we stayed away from the stuff in the world that terrifies me the most. Gods don't terrify me. Governments terrify me.
Right. Yeah.
$10 from Cognitive Dissonance for Matt's mockery of Michael. Thank you very much.
And Space Barbarian, Voltron is superior to the Trinity. Voltron is 5 and 1.
Yeah, and makes sense. Michael, for the love of God, do not mention Hitler.
Yeah. And Weston Campbell again, I will extrapolate on what one Weirdos 571 said. We may not be able to cure a billion Michaels, but we sure as hell give it the old college try. Recovering from religion.
Also, that last one was from Bethos, and I forgot to say that I just read the thing. And this is also from Bethos, so huge. Thank you so much. I heart Matt's care for Michael. Args are bad. Person is not. Yeah. And I realize that that's not always the message that people go away. And it's go away with after watching the show. And it's because there's a lot going on. And I'm sitting here, I've got me, I've got a co-host, I've got 6 or 8 lines of people, I've got chat, I've got, there's a lot to keep an eye on. And no matter how well you mean, one of those balls gets dropped somewhere. So thanks for noticing, Bethos. I appreciate that as well.
Tim again, an all-powerful man in the quantum realm controlling reality. Does he worship Kang the Conqueror?
Nobody worships Kang the Conqueror anymore. Marvel put the kibosh on that right away. That's why we're getting Doom. Jimmy Snow, the line will still be here in 5 years. $10.
Hell yeah.
Ooh. Thank you. It's because he's going to fire me tomorrow. That's why. By the way, I saw Supergirl, and I'm one of the most spoiler people out there. So I will say there were definitely things I liked about it, but it's not good.
It's not on my list. William, I'm a giver prophecy. He won't prove anything. I think that could apply to a number of callers for today, but yeah, for sure.
Ron, the Loather. Thank you, Matt and John. Thank you.
And Weston Campbell again. Hey, Chris, I made a prank call to an apartment complex saying I used the 220 from the kitchen to power an industrial freezer to climatize myself to anthropomorphic climate change. I sounded genuine. That's a really good one. That was wild.
And the thing is, Chris might have something.
He might. Hey, we'll eat our words, right? Yeah, that's the time.
No, because my words are, it'll matter. He literally just said it didn't matter. And I'm like, it'll matter in 4 or 5 years if it gets peer reviewed and explained and, boom, boom, boom. Anyway.
And why would you say I'm going to take my name off the paper as well? That was odd, right? That was a strange moment. There we go.
That's all right. As a reviewer for 7 journals, he's full of shit. Signed Dr. Chris Copeland, $5.
Excellent.
I can't make that affirmation, but I appreciate you.
Max V101, thank you for hanging up on Chris. We don't need any more of these. That previous caller was stupid, who then end up being either the same or worse. This happens on my show as well all the time. And thank you for 20 years of helping me be a better skeptic, Matt. Bravo.
Thanks, Max. Yeah, I get it. Do not misunderstand. First of all, I love you guys, and thanks for being here and supporting everything else. I appreciate the fact that most of you are watching for cathartic reasons. There's a good chunk of you out there that are like, oh my God, I'm so frustrated from all of this stupidity. I love it when they I get it. But we got to remember, some people are stupid. They are. We can try to help with that. And we don't just have to expose raw nerve one in the hopes that we're helping somebody else, even if that's what we end up doing sometimes. So it's a big complicated mess. Humans are messy. Joshua Everett, I want magic and nonsense and whimsy and wonder to be real, so I always listen up when people like Chris say they've got a concept that will change everything. I've been disappointed so far. To be fair, I don't understand Chris's concept enough to assess it.
Yeah, I felt the same. Space Barbarian, blinded by the white, something a friend and I would say when the crowd was a bit monochrome.
That's fair. Great song written by Bruce Springsteen, but made famous by Manfred Mann. Way off topic, but how do you feel about Tom Bombadil's omission from Peter Jackson's films? Don't care, but thanks God himself. I will say this is a good opportunity. I don't think he'll actually see this. I had a friend. I still have a friend. We just don't get to interact much. We didn't talk for probably 30 plus years. When when we were in junior high school. His name's Danny. Hi, Danny. He was reading on the bus to school The Silmarillion, and that was my introduction to everything Tolkien. Because Danny's one of the smartest people I ever met, both when we were kids and probably now. We don't, don't, but genuinely bright motherfucker. And there were things about Danny that I definitely wanted to emulate when I was a kid. And I tried to read Tolkien, and I just found it slogging and dense. And while I enjoyed the movies, I was not at all a fan of the books. So I don't miss Tom. I wouldn't even have known if you hadn't mentioned it about a missing character. And I know that's going to lose me a lot of cred, but I'm watching Invincible now, so that should earn some back.
Melatonin Ale, Zen mode,
Ale.
Matt. Ali, sorry. Zen mode, Matt, really makes me appreciate non-Zen mode, Matt. Non-Zen mode, because some of these callers really deserve to be yelled at. Forgive me the mispronunciation there. Yes,
no, it's fine.
The point is well made. Sometimes it's okay to unload at people.
She is a friend of ours who we are of the show and the channel, who we've been fortunate enough to meet at Reptile Expos and around Austin. Lovely. So I always love seeing. Hope you guys are doing well. Big hugs. Billy Sipes, $50. Thanks, Billy. That's really generous. Hey, Matt, I called in a short time ago to discuss giving eulogy. Yes, I remember, from my grandmother that stayed true to my atheist nature despite her being a devout Catholic. You gave me great advice. I have since given the eulogy, and your advice helped a lot. Oh, thank you. I hate giving advice. And I always try to remember people, you get what you paid for. In this case, you gave me $50 for it, which that would have happened whether I gave you the advice or not. But I'm not a big enough fan of my thoughts on things to actually give other people advice about their life most of the time. There are some simple things, but like I said, I'm a weird guy. I'm the one that wasn't bothered. I didn't feel a massive loss when I left religion. I'm not even sure how much relief I felt. It was just kind of a matter of fact. We didn't even talk about it, John, because we were so busy with calls. I don't think you took a minute to talk about your history with and without religion.
No, it's a fairly short conversation. So I was lucky enough to have never had religion imposed on me, but I've always been pretty obsessed by belief and as you often said, what people believe and why. And I was very active in the kind of skeptic movement in the UK when it was starting to happen, in the early part of the noughties. And I've always been completely fascinated by religion. And the breakthrough for me really was clarifying my thoughts on doxastic involuntarism and the involuntary nature of belief. And I always heard it mentioned kind of in passing in conversations and debates, but to me, it seemed to be too important to be a detail in a conversation. It needed to be the conversation. And so after the last election in the US, I was so brokenhearted about it that I needed to kind of get my head out of politics for a bit. And so I really made myself finish the book that I was writing about that. And that's what's focused all my work. So I don't come from a religious background. I come from a non-religious, secular Jewish background, but I never had religion shoved down my throat. But I've always been fascinated with it. I've spent too many hours debating online. And so now I get to do it for a job, which I absolutely love.
Well, I love the UK. I've been very fortunate to be over there several times to visit, although it's been a while. I was supposed to be doing a debate at Cambridge right when COVID happened, and so that got canceled. And I don't know if it'll ever get rescheduled or anything else, especially since I've had falling out with different people. I did a tour over there for a little bit, but also I got to go to QED once, and it was very nice. I sat down, I did an interview with AC Grayling.
Oh wow, he's wonderful.
I hope I never find out he's as awful as like Dawkins or some of the other people that I don't interact with anymore, because Grayling is just, first of all,
He's such a
even though it's
gentleman.
not his thing, I mean, he shouldn't get credit for this. He's basically got an eidetic memory, which always blows my mind. The people that have that ability. And so we sat down, we did this interview, and then he got up and walked out on stage and gave an entire 45-minute lecture that I both felt like he had memorized word for word, but also I'm pretty confident what it didn't feel word for word, but it's just facts. And let me spew this out and say, boom, 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 did this and this. And he's got great hair. So
he has got good hair. Yeah, he has got good hair.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks a ton, Billy. And I'm glad that worked for you so much.
And I think there's a
4,000 something
donation there. Yeah, I'm not sure what COP is, but thank you for the donation.
Here it is again, from Colombia.
Oh, there you go. From Cali, Colombia. Any good books you recommend? I suspect that our book list might be fairly similar. I mean, my go-to book that I would just recommend for everyone, and I've lost count of the number of times I've gifted this to people, is The Demon Haunted World, because the Carl Sagan, that was the book that really, really got me on the road to valuing thinking right and thinking well. And I realized that thinking well is something that you can actually learn to do. And that was the book that really did it for me. And I think that
I was looking to see if it was right here handy.
Yeah,
it's not actually, because I moved some of my books around. It's on my short list of recommendations. The book that I recommend more than any is Innumeracy by John Allen Paulos.
It's wonderful as well.
I love it. And it's short,
only small,
and it's approachable.
Yeah, it's great.
The book I'm recommending right now was written by my friend Promise, who was just on with John the other day. This is Gospel of Lies, Surviving and Resisting Evangelical Extremism. And look at that. It says forward by some jackass. That's what they should have put on the cover right there.
I loved your forward to that book, Matt. I thought your forward to that book was beautiful. Really set it up brilliantly. It's a brilliant book, by the way. Buy it, people, if you can. It is an excellent, excellent book.
It was the easiest yes I've ever given to anybody asking for anything. Very honored. I hope Promise sells 1 billion. She won't, but I hope she does.
It deserves to be recognized. It's an excellent book. I think this is yours.
In my honest opinion, Matt needs to incorporate more occasional trolling and fun, not to alienate one, but to preserve sanity. Think of what you guys do. Normally, I'm reluctant to, don't give me unsolicited advice. I'm actually having more fun with that sometimes. There are people who I think do it. Like, I think Ian does it too much. He's too good at it. He's just a proper sarcastic little bitch sometimes, and it's fun. But it ain't me. I'm always going to be me. But I do like to have fun. It's just that this stuff is so serious. I mean, the world is falling apart, and what religion is doing to people, and what religion is doing to the rights and freedoms, and how religions are being used by people, whether they believe it or not, to control people, to make them more money. Not just the televangelists, the president. The right-wing fascist, they're using religion, whether they adhere to it or not, to con you into lining the. I saw a statistic yesterday. We didn't talk much about politics today, but I want to reference this. If this is true, and go Google it, because I just saw it, I didn't dig in, but it came from my friend DJ, who I trust. Trump made more money, more profit in the first year of his second term in office than he did in his entire life before.
I can believe that. I can completely believe that.
That should be illegal. It almost certainly is, but whether or not anybody says anything, who knows?
And they went crazy because Jimmy Carter still had shares in the family peanut farm.
Yeah.
Think about that.
And because Obama wore a tan suit.
Right. Yeah. No message, just hello.
Misty! Hi, Misty. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. Misty is one of our best and most wonderful people supporters here at the network, and I'm very grateful for that. That's incredibly generous, and it's good to see you as always. So, I'm sorry, you said no message. Hello? Hello? Tim Davidson. Aloha. Sorry, that's the goodbye one. I meant aloha. Damn it, I did it again. That is the joke that I would have expected from somebody who wasn't here tonight, making puns and dad jokes. Miss you, but yeah, thanks, Tim. And the final super chat for today.
Empty Deer. I can sympathize with Matt. I read The Hobbit in school and liked it, wanted more, but my school's library only has the Silmarillion, got about halfway through and didn't read Tolkien again until my 40s. It is heavy going.
Yeah.
It is heavy going.
I loved the, I skipped one. I loved the old animated Hobbit. We watched that in school. And that was my first proper introduction to Tolkien outside of Silmarillion. Indentured Cervix, $5. Thank you so much. Lovely to see you guys together. Please make it happen again and bring Sean next time. I don't know that we'll ever do like 3, just because 3 voices is a lot. And especially when you get 3 bigger personalities, somebody ends up taking a backseat, and then the people in chat are like, why won't you let so-and-so talk more? There's nothing intentional.
I read tricky.
I let him talk when he's on his show, and I'm just sitting here watching.
I definitely get Sean in. Sean, for anyone who doesn't know, Sean is my co-host on my show. He's an absolute force of nature. He's a brilliant mind. He's a really, really honest, thoughtful, careful thinker. He's a compassionate person. I don't think I've ever met anyone with more integrity, and I'm all for you having Sean up on here with you. I think it would be brilliant.
Well, you let him know, and I will let him know, or Arden will let him know once Arden's back. By the way, Arden's doing great. I'm sure she sends big hugs to everybody, and we'll be doing really good. So this was great. Thank you. Just a metric fuck ton there, John. I appreciate it. And also, thank you to our call screeners, to our moderators, and to Luthien for putting this together and being the producer. I know we got started a couple minutes late. There was a miscommunication thing. But man, I had a blast. It was a good day. And now I release you. Go.